Welcome back, Season 5, Episode 10. We're finally here, end of the season. Whew. I know, the last couple of months been sporadic, and I know anyone who's keeping up with, probably none of you, but anyway, I know it's been a bit sporadic and life has got back to normal just a touch, so I'm hoping to get back into the rhythm of things. Anyway, if you want to support, like, subscribe, get all into that, but this episode, we have a killer. We have Heidi Farina, this traditional artist. Now, she went to school for art, then flipped that on the head, became some sort of scientist and smashed it at that. Then she flipped it again as COVID happened and worked on her art and came back and found her passion. It's a long episode, but it is such a killer episode. Now there's this really fun thing you should have, we dig into her sort of her life and all that because it's so interesting. But one thing that's really, there's so many things that are bloody interesting, but like an hour and 12 minutes, I asked the question, like, what do you do for fun? And there is no way you pick what she does for fun. Like, if you do, comment, like, before you get to there, comment what you think it is, and then when you get to an hour and 12, see if you know, because it threw me off in such a good way. And I love when people are not what you expect and how they just shows you like everyone's a little bit different. And even if they're an artist and they're like, no, this is another part of my world, or I'm this and I'm that, and I don't know, people are just so complex in our little bubble and world. But I just love how we all do different stuff, and Heidi is definitely one of those. We talk about her techniques, transitioning from oil painting to acrylic painting, her love for the Pacific Northwest, which is up, anyone that's not in America, it's the top left here, and she just loves it, love for snowboarding, outdoorsy, all this stuff. It's just amazing. So let's jump into it. I hope you have a good one. Like, subscribe, let's do all that good stuff, and yeah, let's do it. Boosh! York one time and it like super snowed, and there was like, I was like, oh, there's all these mounds of snow everywhere, and I was like, this is beautiful, and it was all the garbage because they put all their garbage out.
Yeah.
And then I had this and I was like, yeah, snow makes everything better.
Yep.
Like it's like hiding all that stuff, and you're like, oh, no, that's great.
Yeah, because they have like one trash night where they just like pile everything at midnight, and yeah, I could totally see that looking pretty under snow.
Yeah, I was like, oh, this is beautiful. Look at this. How did they get the mounds of snow here? Did
it smell? Because I feel like normally those piles smell.
Oh, yeah, I think it was so cold that like, even the things that would smell are kind of like frozen stuff, you know?
Really funny.
Yeah, it was that was a wild, fun trip. The funny thing is I did that trip with my wife and my like 1.5-year-old son at the time, so this is many years ago. And then a month later I went and met up with my mate, who at the time was like touring bands and stuff like that. So cool. We were like, I went out within a month, family style and best mate style, all in New York.
It's like a totally different experience.
Oh, totally different experience. Had the best time both times, but very different.
My husband really wanted us to move there for a while, and I'm not a city human. Like, I love visiting, but if I was alone and not married, I would be like out in the mountains somewhere, which is
really
why I paint what I paint. But my husband tried to convince me, so he took me to New York, and I've been there before, but it was just like a fun trip, and he's like, let's move, and he was like, there's $1 pizza. I was like, I'm gonna be like 500 pounds if we move here.
Trying to squeeze through one of their alleyways to get to the next slice. Yeah, I feel you on that. That's me moving to America, because I was like, oh my gosh, everything's so cheap and they're so accessible.
Yeah.
So I was just like, oh yeah, why am I not eating this all the time?
Oh yeah, I've heard people that move here that didn't grow up here, because it's like if you grow up here, I think you can figure out how to avoid it. But I've heard people that move here like routinely gain like 10-20 pounds.
Oh yeah, maybe double that for me. Yeah, I've just recently started going to a personal trainer and been like, all right. Watching my like calories, and I was like, oh, a double stuffed Oreo is 60 calories. Wow. If I have a whole packet of them, I've blown my calorie stuff. And I'm like, okay, I should
it's also, I mean, I don't know about Australia, but like Europe bans, I think they ban like 1,200 ingredients that we allow.
Oh
So
yeah.
it's also like the chemical composition is just straight up different here. So that, I mean, that's also basically if it's in a box, we just don't buy it in my house. Like, like we're not buying it. I don't know what's
Yeah.
in it. I'm not buying it.
The I like so when I was in Australia, like I would eat these things called wheat bix, like on there, I think they're
Hmm.
called Weetabix here, and I would eat like 9 at a time with milk, sugar, and I would
Yeah.
just like smash them. Here, like I would get the Weetabix, that one is good, but I had so much gluten in Australia, and then I moved
Yeah.
here, and then all of a sudden, like about a
Totally
year or
different.
two in, I was starting to get these like super bad migraines. I was like, what's going on? So this lasts for a few years.
Yeah.
Comes out that I'm like gluten intolerant, but I swear it's because like America just like over injects gluten into everything,
Yeah.
and so I was just like, oh, into every piece of like bread or anything like that. So I think my body was like, no, 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 whoa, 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 what's going on? Like this is too much.
Yeah.
So I
It's so
just wasn't ready
crazy.
for it.
It's
Yeah,
very crazy. It's
yeah.
interesting hearing that. So you've been here how long now?
Oh, too long. No, no, no. I love it here. It's what's 17 years, I think.
Oh,
But we
wow.
took
That's a
three
long time.
years off.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So does your, and you have a son?
I have a son and a daughter.
A son and a daughter. So do they go to Australia with you often? Like, do they feel connected to it?
Oh, they definitely feel connected. So my son was born in 2011, my daughter 2015. In 2018, we moved. We sold a house here because we thought we built it up like the story of the worst house in the like a good neighborhood. So we're in
Yeah.
Kirkland. We
Yep.
built this house up from nothing. And then we're like, okay, what are we going to do? And my wife was like, I think we should move to Australia and like enjoy that, and we'll just live our lives out there,
Yeah.
kind of thing. And we're like, all right, go there. 2018, having a great time.
Oh man.
COVID happens,
Yep.
and we loved it over there. Our lives were amazing. Like
Yeah.
we had a couple of times with masks on, and we were like, okay, cool. And then we're like, all right, we're back to the skate parks and surfing and stuff. So then my wife was like, with my work and with she was still working for an American company, and she's American as well. She was like, I can't be away from my family if they're gonna have another lockdown at any point, like
Right.
in the future.
Yeah.
And I was
Because
like,
they
I
weren't
totally
letting
understand.
anyone in, right? Like it
What's
was,
that?
I thought Australia was really strict about not letting anyone in.
No one in, and you could hardly leave. So
Yeah.
like, so we was like, as much as we were open there in our state, we couldn't even fly to a different state unless it
Oh,
was like
wow.
like COVID test approved and all that sort of stuff. So
So interesting.
yeah,
Okay.
but we only had like I think even still it's like 9 deaths or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's a
Yeah.
like a big difference. Anyway, then we moved back here. So my kids had 3 years of living in Australia, and really like my daughter had an Australian accent. My son got an Australian accent, but I think it's because he practiced in the mirror, so he sounded like him. Because like when you put an Australian accent and an Australian accent, I can't hear it here because obviously being Australian, but
Hmm.
an American accent in Australia, when you're at a school, and then like there's not like a hey mate come over here. It's like
Hmm.
it's just a whole different thing. Like and everyone's like, oh, there's an American.
Yeah.
What's going on?
Yeah.
Even though there's like we have Navy ships where we live would come through the port there and everything, but it's still like you'd hear it and you'd be like, oh well, what's that noise
Yeah.
in this place? Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, it's the same thing here, right? Like you hear English, Australian, Scottish, and I mean, it's, that immediately they're
Oh,
originated from somewhere else, right? Which is awesome, but it is, I think it's like a giveaway, right?
oh,
It's
I
hard to blend in that scenario.
so I think of it. I get this all the time because I get like people in Australia say, "Hey, what's it like living in America?" And I say, "Well, first of all, I'm an Australian living in America,
Yeah.
and that's like walking through a place with rose-colored glasses on. So I can like,
Yeah.
I still swear a lot, and people find it charming. Oh, the Australian swearing on the pickleball court or something like that." And so they were like, "Only you could get away with that."
Yeah.
And so I can't really say what it's like to live. I obviously know what it's like to live here, but I get it from just one perspective.
Yeah.
And so,
Absolutely.
and then when I go to different places that have less tourists go through,
Hmm.
the interest goes up. So if I'm in a restaurant and I'm down in Alabama or something like that,
I was just in Fayetteville earlier this year, and I would like talk, like I'd be like, oh, I'm serving this. I'd be like, oh, you're from Australia? Oh, hey, what's it like there? Like, and they really want to like find out. I'd love to go there. And I'm always like, oh yeah, cool. Like, yeah, if you get there, go do this and stuff like that, and
Yep.
chat about. But go to Canada,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like,
Everybody expats to Canada.
everybody. So I thought there was one time I went up there and I was like, oh, I'm going to use my Australian accent because it was really busy and see if I can get that extra
Yeah.
little bit of like service.
Yep.
And I was like, oh, hey mate, like I was just wondering. And the server turns around and says, oh yeah, mate. And we're both like, dang it. She's like, he's not giving me an American tip, and I'm not giving him the American service to get.
Yep. That's I
And
mean,
so we're both like, fair enough, keep it moving.
that's so funny. Oh my God. It's true though. Like we snowboard at Whistler.
Oh yeah.
And Whistler is more Australians working at Whistler than Canadians, I swear. Like,
Oh no, fully. They call it Little Australia, and the big reason is that you can get a traveling working permit and go around anywhere that's Commonwealth,
yep.
and you can get that really easily, and then you can like stay there for a long time. So like you could be there
Interesting.
2-3 years and like stay
That's awesome.
there.
It's very
Yeah,
cool.
and Whistler being one of the biggest mountains that are skiable in the
Right.
world. It's like
Right.
pretty
Yeah, I mean,
wild.
I totally get why you would pick there. It's just so funny because before moving to Washington, we hadn't been to Whistler before, and so we went up there. I was so shocked. It was the first time I'd learned about that whole process because I was like, what is going on?
Yeah,
You know,
why
I
are all
used
these
to-
fuckers here?
You know?
I want a Canadian.
Well, no, we used to, so we taught at A Basin in Colorado,
Oh, okay.
which is a ski resort that's part of Vail Resorts, and it was interesting because in Vail Resorts there's like no Canadians or Australians. It was all like South American people, people from Europe. Like it was a completely different group of humans that had come over to A
Wow.
Basin.
Yeah, I
work.
never
So
really
it was
thought
so
about
interesting to me.
Yeah.
So,
That's
yeah.
cool. So you snowboard?
I snowboard.
Does the
we
whole
taught-
family snowboard?
So my husband and I both do. That's how we met.
Yeah.
And then my kid is 3, and so she just started ice skating a year ago, and then we are hoping to start her this year on snowboarding.
Ah.
But yeah, it's a huge part of like why we grew up in Ohio, but we moved to the West Coast states because of mountains.
Oh, really?
So that's like the whole genesis of how we ended up here.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
So, like, my son loves to ski.
Oh, nice.
And I've snowboarded since I've been here, but I took a huge gap. Like, I didn't realize, like, when I first got here, I was, like, working an odd job, like, at a movie theater. And so I was like, oh, I'd get there at, like, 9 a.m. to go snowboarding on a Tuesday, and there'd be no one there. And I'm like, this is, like, oh, yeah, cool, snowboarding, this is awesome.
Yeah.
I'd go, then I got a full-time job as a web designer, and I was like, oh, I'm going to go snowboarding on the weekend. I'm like, I'm waiting in line for like
Totally different.
half an
Yeah.
hour to get this like 5-minute run in.
Yeah.
I was just hating it. And
When
so I
did
just
you
stopped.
start? Like what year?
I started snowboarding in 2007.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. And I was like, but I will say this. My wife said that she snowboarded, and I was like, oh yeah, cool. Like, we're going to have this like fun time. She went once that year. I went 27 times the first year I went. But the first time we went, she was like, didn't give me really any extra. She said, oh yeah, you sort of go on your toe side and heel side. Everyone thinks because you've surfed and you skateboarded that
Yeah.
you like, you know the feeling of it. They
Yep.
just think going like sideways down a mountain, which gives you an advantage, don't get me wrong. But knowing how hard you got to grab those heel and toe sides
Yeah.
is a lot different. So the first time I got off a bunny heel, I literally just went into the biggest snow mound I've ever felt, and I was stuck. And then she's just laughing at me like 30 meters down, going like, "Good luck, get out of there." And I'm like, trying to get out. And it was terrible, but
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to learn. I super respect. I taught kids, adults, and like a juvenile detention program.
Oh, yeah? Wow.
So there's like a wide variety of types of humans and age groups in that.
Yeah.
But I always thought the adults were like the most. I don't want to say impressive, but like it was most impressive that they were learning, because when you've got like a 40-year-old dude learning how to go down an icy mountain for the first time on something that could kill him at 40 miles an
Oh,
hour.
yeah.
Like, it's impressive that they have the gumption to do it. Because, I mean, the little kids, like, they fall down and they pop back up and they forget. And then they know by the time they're 5 and forget how they learned, you know?
Yeah, exactly. I was just talking about this with my brother and sister-in-law, and we were just talking about how some people could be super athletic in one area, like LeBron James, or someone in tennis, like Federer. They're amazing at what they do, but you ask them to like cross over sports, or you say, "Hey, let's get on a board," something that is exactly opposite of what you do, and they might not be able to pick it up, even though they're elite athletes.
Yeah.
And then doing that at 40. Like, your body's already set in its ways, going like, hang on, I walk this way, I sit down, like, you don't think, turn sideways, lean up the mountain, like, you know?
Yeah, it's so hard. It's so interesting. That's cool, though. So do your kids go to Snoqualmie Pass, then?
They do.
Yeah,
Well,
nice.
my daughter was really into it, and then all of a sudden she's like, nah, I'm done, and doesn't want to do it this year, so I was like, okay. And then my son still wants to. I will say this, and this might hurt your feelings.
It's okay. I was a skier too, so if it's about skiing, it's okay.
No. It's I don't think I would ever snowboard again if my kids didn't.
Oh no, I get that. I get that.
It's so much work to get it, and then you never know what the conditions, especially Snoqualmie.
Yeah.
Because I was up there for the day opener at Snoqualmie, and it was so hard to see, and also I forgot to wax my board.
Oh no.
So I fell off the lift twice because and I'd never had that before. Like, and it got stuck on the ice part just getting off the lift, and I flipped over and I was like, I thought the guy next to me had put his like ski pole on me.
Yeah.
So I was like, what is happening here?
Some of it is conditions here. So Colorado, have you skied Colorado ever?
I have not. No, I'm not that fancy.
Yeah, Colorado is. So we learned in Ohio, and my husband and I met snowboarding at a hill in Ohio. And then we were like, we're moving to real mountains. And so that's when we picked up. And we moved to Wyoming.
Oh,
and we lived in Wyoming for like 6-7 years. And we taught in Colorado, which was only like a 2-hour drive.
Oh, okay.
And the snow there, it's always sunny. The only time it's gray is when it's actually snowing. So then the conditions are great.
Yeah.
And then the rest of the time, the snow is super light. So I feel like Washington is a really hard place to get into it because here you fluctuate between like really rainy, heavy snow. Like it's not rain, but it's heavy, dense, wet snow, down to like very nice powder days, down to straight ice. And so I feel like if you're not really into snowboarding, that alone could kill your interest in it, you know?
Oh, yeah. So that's exactly right. So I imagine that when I was on the lift going up there, this guy was like, oh, yeah, he lives in North Bend, and he's like, yeah, I can't beat this mountain. It's 20 minutes from my home. I just come up here I can come up here for 3 hours and get a killer runs, and I'm back home in 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, that's about an hour for us, but that's totally fine.
Yeah.
And he was like, but you go to other mountains and the conditions are so good because the snow's lighter, like at different regions or like further out. And I was like, I've only ever I've snowboarded Whistler twice and Stevens. And even Stevens, I was like, dang, Stevens is good. But I was like, I'm not driving 2 hours out here for that. And who knows what the conditions are driving out there. Am I getting stuck there? And I'm not a morning person, so I'm not like getting up at like 6 a.m. to get out there is not happening.
The cards.
No. I would only do that for surfing, and even then I'm like, ugh, that's tough work.
That's fair. That's fair. I hear all of that.
Have you ever surfed?
I have.
Yeah.
And I was resonating with what you were saying earlier about like the trade-off between one or the other is not identical because I can surf and I actually feel like my balance on it is quite good because of snowboarding.
Oh yeah, definitely because of that.
Process of like getting up, staying up right away, that took a while. And we learned in California where it's cold.
Oh yeah.
So we were doing it in Northern California in like not dry suits, but wet suits. And it was very, very cold experience. I think it's probably more enjoyable in a place like Mexico or Costa Rica or
yeah. So I was in Hawaii. I sound so fucking bougie when I say this stuff, but I was in Hawaii. Was it earlier this year? I can't remember. I don't know if it was earlier this year or the year before, but I was there and I was out at Honolulu Bay on Kauai, and I've seen all these from surfing and watching surfing videos. I've seen all these like surf videos and areas from there. So when I'm looking out there, I'm like, I'm living one of these surf dreams. But I'm so, at this point, like I'm so unfit. Like I haven't worked out in forever, and I'm there and I'm trying to surf. I got my son floating around like, Pops, come save me. And I'm like, I paddle out to get him. And I'm like, my arms are like jelly. Oh, there's a wave coming. I did not stand up for like, I was out there for 3 hours. I did not stand up once.
It's a workout.
Yeah. And it's because I was exhausted. But I was also, for some reason, like shit scared of these tiny little waves because I hadn't surfed in so long. And I was on a foamy that was like kind of harder to use. But anyway.
Yeah.
I was loving it. And I would sit out there, do that for hours on end rather than go to the mountain and do that.
That's fair. I get that. And ironically, like I'm the opposite. Like I would sit through like negative 20-degree weather to snowboard. Like I'm that human. I would easily do that. But the water up my nose and the surfing situation, I hate that. Like I'm like, this is awful. It's salt water straight up your nose.
Yeah. I fully get that. And I would especially say now that I'm older and a shitter surfer, like way shitter than, and I was a shit surfer before, so that's saying something.
It's
that
fair.
I cop it more now, and I'm like, oh God, I'm gonna be hurt from that little fall, even if it's tumbling me around or whatever.
That happens in snowboarding too, though. Like I definitely now, like I used to ride like crazy off-terrain double black, like very steep and mogul-y stuff, and now I'll do like 2 runs of something like that, and I'm like, that's good. I got my fix. I'm good. I'm gonna go do blues.
I do that with at heart, I'm a skateboarder. Like anything I look online is either art, skateboarding. That's all it is. And I play a ton of pickleball. Yeah. But
I've never played that.
You don't play that?
I've never played it, but I know it's like very popular and getting very popular.
Oh
so
yeah,
it's like, I'm gonna have to like give it a go.
If you did anything, like if you ever played tennis a little bit, or if you ever played table tennis or badminton or anything like that, this game is incredible because like you get to work a little bit hard, but also it's like very strategic because the ball's not coming at you like 400 miles an hour like it does in tennis, where you're kind of like, I'm hoping to get this back in the right spot. Right. You know what I mean? At the level of like not being pro. But with pickleball, you're like, oh, hang on, I can place this over there. Oh, they're going to hit it this way. I've got to get it that way. Oh, I can hit this one harder. Oh, they lobbed it up. Like, you're like always like processing and trying to do that. Anyway.
Good to know. Okay. Yeah, I know Seattle's building like a giant facility.
Yeah, down in Sodo.
Yeah, I was like, I heard about it, but I haven't, like I said, at some point I'm sure I'll try it because all of my friends at some point are getting it.
Yeah, someone's going to try and rope you into it. But I would say, if you were any bit addicted to that stuff, then watch out because
I'm a sports addict. Like it's if I'm not doing something every day, it's a problem. So
well then watch out. You might want to dodge it then because it hit me hard. I'm lucky I didn't find it was either that or heroin. And I was like, okay. Well, luckily it's pickleball because
glad you avoided the heroin. That's also easily found. Oh man.
So anyway, all right. We should get into the questions. I feel like you and I could chat for about 4 weeks and
I'm a chatty human.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. So, we'll get into the 10 questions.
Okay.
Are you excited?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, let's do it. And we'll get your art and stuff will pop up as the questions go. Don't worry.
Okay, cool.
Cybertruck, yay or nay?
Cybertruck, yay or nay? I'm gonna go with nay.
Nay.
Nay, yeah. They're really ugly.
Oh, I love them.
Really?
Yeah. I will say this, and I was interested to ask you this, and I was I'm usually interested to ask artists because most artists want something like unique or that's like pulled something out of like your art or like my illustration or something like that. I've pulled something out or into the world that's unique a little bit.
Yeah.
Right? And so, like, that there, even though I can't fucking stand Elon Musk and I can't stand, like... whatever.
I was going to say, that probably is coloring my immediate nay.
Yeah. And I'm with you on that. Like, fuck that stuff. But the fact that someone was like, hey, you know what? We've built something and it's so different. And
but
like...
doesn't it just look like an angular Prius? I feel like it's just a Prius they put...
No, I will say this. I have a Tesla Y, and there's so many of them around. I hate... I love my car, and I'm like, It just feels like I'm in the Prius area for Tesla.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
Seattle has a ton of, I think that might be it too, is I feel like everyone here has a Tesla. Like
Yeah.
it's so common. And I do love like the electric bit, you know,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
not the electric bit, but yeah, I just feel like I'm like, oh, great, another replicate of.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel you on that. And so when I'm driving, mine still has the old like hubcaps around, and I'm always saying like, God, I need new hubcaps just to make it feel like it's new, like a different than it's just
Yeah.
a Prius. I'm driving a
You should
black
lean
Prius.
into it. You'd be like, I have the OG model. I'm the OG.
There's too many around. I think there's people that still have the like very first Ys around here and stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, we have a Subaru Outback, and we were told by our
Oh.
friends, they were like, well, you have the most generic Pacific Northwest car, right? So, so I can't say anything.
I literally just saw a guy.
Is it the Portland video where he's zooming in?
Oh yeah, but it was
Yeah,
like in Seattle.
Our friend sent it to us and was like, this is you.
I saw that in Seattle, and they're like, how long till I find a Subaru? And he literally just drop somewhere, turn, Subaru. Drop somewhere else, turn, Subaru. Now, whether he's edited that or not, but I was like, that's totally true.
No, man, there's at least 3 on our street, and we're,
Yeah.
That's pretty high.
There's one straight across my road. But mind you, there's also, I think there's, I'm just trying to think. Oh, there was another Subaru, but they just moved. So there was 2 Subarus, but there is actually 5 Teslas on my street.
Okay. Were they all white? That's the question. Were they all white?
Oh no, so mine's black, other one's blue.
Okay.
Then we have a red one down here, grey, and there is a white one. Yeah, you're right.
Okay. I feel like normally I see white, so I was leaning into like, well, at least our Subaru is a different color, you know,
Yeah.
but that's not true, it seems.
Well, then you see the wraps of them, and I'm kind of like, I'm down for the wraps, and I'm like, oh man, that's so cool, but I'm like, am I that committed to try and make mine that different? Like,
That's awesome.
but I will say this as well. There's been more than 10 times I've been to a parking lot and went to the wrong Tesla.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like,
I mean,
why
we've done
aren't
it
you
with the
opening?
Subaru too, though. We've done it
Yeah.
with the So, we're kind of in the same boat. I can't
Yeah.
talk.
Well, so at least for now, at least if you see a Cybertruck and you're like, hey, I'm in a parking lot, you're not probably going to run in and be like, oh,
True.
someone else, oh, another Cybertruck, which
True.
one's mine?
Yeah, that's a good point. That is
Yeah.
a good point.
Stick out like a sore thumb. Even though I like the sore thumb.
Yeah, that's fair.
All right. What do you do to pay the bills?
I am a full-time professional artist.
That is incredible.
Yeah.
So, I think we should get in like what. Hang on, I don't know how far to go back. Let's start this. Go with what you're doing now as a professional artist, and I've got questions on that. Like, so are you painting portraits? Are the scenery behind you? How do we do?
So, all Pacific Northwest landscape.
Oh, wow.
So, it's all mountains, ocean, very hyper-local to Oregon, up to British Columbia, and over to, like, I'd say Wyoming. I know Wyoming's not Pacific Northwest, but we live there, so
Yeah.
I go as far as the Rocky Mountains. But yeah, that's my thing. I launch collections every month to month and a half.
Oh, wow.
And I'm very lucky that it's working and it's my job. But I started painting again. Do you want the background or no?
Oh, I was just about to ask about the background. But before I get into that well, maybe your background would lead into it, but why did you choose, like, scenic to bit? And then also, are you going and photographing these, or are you, like, going and finding this on, like, Google View and, like, your style? How did you find your style? How, like, all that? Like, let's wrap that all in here. I love it all.
Yeah, it's all tied back to the genesis of how I got into it.
Okay,
So
cool.
I'll give you the quick.
Love it.
I
Love
don't
it.
know if it's quick. You can edit it.
Nah. These people have to sit through it. Fuck you guys. This is this person's artist journey.
I'll be like 3 hours later. No.
I've got a full beard.
Yeah.
How did it go? What was your first pencil you picked
Yeah.
up?
The 4B. No. Yeah, so I was an art major, but I grew up in Ohio. The landscapes are not compelling in Ohio. Like, You get really pretty color change in fall, but that's it. And I liked landscape, but I didn't paint it then. I actually painted people because when you learn in art school and high school and all the times where I'd learned, they tend to put you in a dark room with humans or busts of humans and you learn how to draw shadows. And so I was doing a lot of portraiture, and then I majored in art. And I majored in art in Cleveland, Ohio, where I grew up.
Oh.
And my husband and we met super young. We met at 15, and we'd been together for like 5-6 years already. And we both wanted to live in the mountains. And we're like, screw it, let's get married. So, so we got married super young. We got married at 19 and 20. Wow. And we moved to Wyoming. And we moved to Wyoming because Colorado and Montana were double the cost of university.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah.
And so we moved to Wyoming and we're like, well, we're close to we're in the Rocky Mountains, we'll find snowboarding. And so we moved, I majored in art there, and basically we taught snowboarding on the weekends at A Basin, and then we went to school during the week and worked full time. So it was like a crazy stressful university experience.
Yeah.
And in that process, we were also like real broke because we were married and living in another state. And so all of a sudden I was like, oh God, how do you make money with art? Mm-hmm. I need to pay off the loans for school because school's here expensive. And so I was like 3 years into an art major painting people. And I was like, I don't really like painting people. And also, who's going to buy a picture of a random human in their house? Like, I was just like, in my head, I was like, there's no way I'm going to make this into a living. So I guess I had a little bit of like fear. And so I pivoted and I majored in biology and genetics, in zoological genetics. And zoological genetics means for me, it was studying ecology. And so my job turned into collecting samples from animals, non-invasively, not in a way that hurts them.
Yeah. No, you're not just going around like Steve Irwin. Oh, mate, here we go. I'm going to stick my thumb up his bum.
Not like that. There's no stingrays. No. No, but we were like, basically I camped, collected samples, took them back to the lab, ran PCR. I did that while I was in college, getting my major in it. And then when I graduated, my husband got a job in California. So we moved up to California. I continued to work in research, and I did that for 15 years in different capacities. So anything from ecology to medical biology, I ended up doing all of it through genetics. But the whole time, I'd stopped painting. I basically went from like 3 years of art major, my whole life of painting and creating, to just like nothing because I was overwhelmed with work and busy and traveling for work and just didn't touch an easel forever. Wow. And then COVID happened and I started painting again, and I was like, oh, well, I can't go to all these places that I love because everything's in lockdown. But I was like, I have a bazillion pictures of all the places I've skied and hiked and collected animal samples. And so I started just like for fun making small watercolor sketches of the places that I have been. Yep. And so I basically started posting on Instagram because I wasn't seeing a lot of people during that time. It was kind of isolating, right? So I just started posting on Instagram and being like, here's what I'm working on because nobody's got anything to do but drink and do art right now. So I posted it and it just started taking off, and I didn't expect that. And then my brain was like, oh my God, I spent my whole life thinking I couldn't be an artist because you can't make money, but actually now the internet makes it so that you can share your art and people can find it easily, and you don't have to get accepted by a New York gallery. So I just started kind of routinely practicing art again. And within 2 years of that happening, I went to my husband and I was like, I can't do my science job anymore. I have to do this. Like, this is what I'm meant to be doing. Yeah. I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to do it. And so I basically came up with like a dollar number, and I was like, if I can hit this much money in selling my art, then I'm going to quit my full-time job. Yeah. And so I actively started like building a business plan. I started creating bigger artwork, like this kind of stuff. Yeah. And just seeing if I could sell it, and it was working. And so about year 4 of me painting, I resigned on January 1 from my biotech job and peaced out, and I've been doing this ever since, and it's awesome. Like, I love my life.
Wow. So I have 2 questions there. So the first one, when you're leaving the job and you're telling people like, hey, I'm leaving this, are they cheering for you, or are they like, what the fuck are you doing? Like,
both. Yeah. It was overwhelmingly supportive. Like the
Oh,
majority
okay.
of people are like, "Holy hell, that's awesome," which is what was cool because I really didn't know what to expect.
Yeah.
There was a lot of like quiet apprehension in the questions they were asking. Like no one was like, "What the fuck are you doing?"
Oh,
But there
okay,
was a
okay.
lot of like, "So like, tell me about this. Like you can make money on art, you know?"
Yeah. Well, still
So there's
now.
definitely like a "What are you doing?" but quiet.
Yeah. So, where we met, you were up at Suncadia Resort, and you had a pop-up stand there. Is that how you sell most of your work, or is it through online?
So mostly online.
Okay.
The gallery thing is important too. And
Yeah.
so because I have a traditional training in art,
Yeah.
I'm lucky in that I knew kind of the different realms where art exists. So what I did is I started on Instagram because I figured if I can make my own revenue off of my direct business, then I
Yep.
know that I will forever be able to reproduce that in my life, and that
Yep.
means I can do this. Like this
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
viable career path.
Yeah.
And so I started there. I probably do 80% of my revenue direct about.
Oh, wow.
And I do that through my website and social media.
That is
And
good.
then
Are you doing
about
advertising as well to try and push it to other
I
people that don't?
do, so most of it is just really targeted social media. Like a lot of people use social media haphazardly. Like
Mm-hmm.
they go on, they post once, they get 10 likes, they hate that they only got 10 likes and they bounce off for 3 months and then they're like, Instagram doesn't work.
Yeah.
I took a different approach. This might sound kind of weird, but like, I like people and I try really hard to be a kind human
Yeah.
and
I
like
feel you on that.
be a good person. But
Yeah.
also, if someone doesn't like me, it's fine. It's
Oh,
okay.
yeah.
There's billions of humans in the world. Not everyone is going to hate you. Like, so Instagram doesn't stress me out. Like, social media does
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
stress me out. I'm going to post. If someone likes it, great. If no one likes it, well, then I'll pivot and figure it out.
Yeah.
So I kind of always took the stance of like, if I keep showing up, then eventually there are enough humans in the internet that someone will find my work. And I
Yeah.
paint things that other people see, like I'm painting places that people vacation, that people
Yeah.
gravitate towards. Like Washington's a stunningly beautiful state,
Yep.
and there's a lot of people who feel about it like I do.
Yep.
So I knew that if I kept showing up, so basically 80% of it is me doing that, like a very targeted every day. I'm on social media, putting things there, showing
Yep.
people my process, posting photos, like giving them a peek behind how I actually
Yeah.
create.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I also am in 5 or 6 galleries around the state.
Oh,
And so
cool.
that's like the other side where it's more of the traditional art world.
Yeah.
And I have a foot in there. And then I do the market. So the market's like I do maybe 3 to 4 a year.
Oh, okay.
And
So
that's
it's not like you're like every weekend. Oh my gosh,
no,
let's pack it up. Let's get out there. Yeah.
no. I like people, but I'm an extroverted introvert.
Oh, you and
Like
me are
I
like the same fucking person.
Yeah,
Right
like
now.
I really like talking with people. I love interacting with people. I love one-on-one interactions. I get super stressed if it's my routine life.
Yeah.
And so I need that downtime. So the markets are purely to like go to places that I know people generally like the places I'm painting and also at
Yeah.
the right times. Like Suncadia has that Christmas market.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It makes sense to go to a market during the Christmas time when everyone's shopping for
Yeah.
gifts.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
So yeah, I do that. Edmonds Art Festival. I'm applying to Bellevue this year. So like
Okay.
things like that are
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I love that couple of prong approach where I think a lot of people try and like go, oh, hey, I'm all in on this, but you don't realize you need to be like to be in on this. You got to go like
yes.
that to get it. But,
Yeah. And I'm a big picture thinker. So like when I was planning this all out, I was like, there's a bazillion ways to like the important part to me is creating, but there's a bazillion ways to make money.
yeah.
And those are two different questions and two
Yeah.
different processes. And so I was like, there's the how do I make this my job because I love it? And then there's the how do I make income off of this?
Yeah.
And that's a different question altogether. And that's a business question.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. That's really a good take on it. So, back to your actual art style. When we spoke up at Suncadia, you were saying that you used to work with oils, and now that you have a kid, you're like, oh, now I've transitioned to acrylics, and we we're
Yeah.
both like, oh, the smell, the turpentine, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
You're like, you can't have that stuff in
Yeah.
the house, and it's just ruminates everywhere, even if it's in the
Yes.
garage. You know what I mean? It just somehow
Yes.
flows. It's on your hands. It's in your clothes.
Getting rid of it's really hard too.
Yeah, yeah. But with acrylics, like, did you find that you had to like change the style a little bit, or did you have to? Like,
In the beginning, yes.
Yeah.
Now I don't.
Yeah.
It's because I didn't know, like, I try to think of it this way. Like, when I was in science, there's how you develop an experiment and there's the tools you use, right?
Yep.
And if you don't know how to use the tools, then there's a really slim chance your experiment's going to work out properly. Art is the same.
Yep. Yep.
So the concept behind how to do oil, acrylic, any kind of like thick, opaque paint for the
Yep.
most part, it's the same conceptually. But in practice, you need to understand the tool you're using.
Yep.
And so when I first started with acrylic, what drove me nuts is with oil, you can move your paint on your canvas for like 3 weeks if you want.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
you can
wow.
literally keep adjusting and manipulating and changing things, which is also a curse because
Yeah,
if
yeah.
you're an over perfectionist, you could
Be
never
there
end.
forever. Yeah. Yeah.
But that was really challenging with acrylic because acrylic dries really quick, and
It
so
does, yeah.
you would blend together and it just dries within like 2 minutes sometimes.
Yeah.
And so that was a challenge, and my style changed when I first started with acrylic. To be honest, it was worse than my
Yeah.
oil
Yeah. Of course. Yeah.
because I was like, oh God, like how do I get colors to blend? And so then I went down an expedition of like, okay, I need to learn everything I can about acrylic paint. Like I need to understand how it works, why it works, what mediums exist. And so I went to art stores and talked to representatives of the product lines I was using.
Yeah.
And then I also went to workshops with various artists throughout the West Coast area. And I
Wow.
just took in what people were teaching and
Yeah.
then took what I liked and what would help me in getting my artwork more, I don't know, just more into the style I wanted it to
Yeah.
be.
Yeah.
So what I've settled on is I paint very much like oil now, but I
well,
do it with acrylic.
Well, that's why
Yeah.
when we were up at Sun Katie, I was like, "What are you using?" Because it didn't have that oily, like feel to it,
Yeah.
but it still looked like an oil painting. And I was like, "How?" And like, then you're like, "Oh, use acrylic," and I'm like, "That's not how I see acrylic working." But sure, you've got a magic touch.
Yep. So there's a in oil you can do basically different. It's thick to thin, thin to thick, like
Yep.
different variations of how much of the paint is mixed with the medium.
Yep.
And with acrylic you can do it too, but you just have to do different mediums. And so basically I'm doing that with my acrylic work.
Ah.
So thick over thin. And that's why it looks more oil-like. But the truth is, because I'm using acrylic, I can get paintings done quicker.
Yeah. Yeah. Of
I
course.
don't have any turpentine in my house. Acrylic's not
Yeah.
perfect, but it's
You're not as high as you usually are. You know?
not as high as it. Yeah, it's.
Dang
My husband's like, you're different now.
You're boring now. You're not seeing unicorns every time you come into the house.
God, man, no, but I know someone who does oil, and I went back into their studio maybe like 2 months ago, and the smell just hit me like a wave, and
Oh, yeah.
I was like, man, I do not miss that. I do not miss turpentine in my nose nonstop.
Yeah.
So, there's always a debate in the art world of like oil's kind of the gold standard because historically that's what has been used
The
forever.
greats have used, yeah.
Yes. And so I have dabbled with like, should I make a few oils just to like put my foot in that ring?
Yeah.
But also I there's just so many benefits to acrylic that
Yeah.
I really, for the most part, think I'll stick with acrylic and then
Yeah.
maybe supplement occasionally with oil. So
Do you have an acrylic sponsorship? Like, do you have someone that's like, hey,
No.
really?
Mm-mm.
So,
I
like,
actually haven't tried either, so I don't know if I
oh,
could.
I feel
but
like
I
that's an easy sponsorship for you to get. Like, of just like, oh yeah, we'll give you free acrylics at least, and you're like, oh,
There's so many. I'm not the only one who started posting art during COVID.
yeah, but who
There's
cares
a
what
lot
anyone
of
else?
artists who have like massive, like $500,000 people
Yeah, yeah.
followings, and I'm not in that bracket, so I don't
Yeah.
know but I probably should reach out and ask at some point.
Yeah, just be like, hey, like if you guys want, like, and I post a little thing, like it's like these are the acrylics that I use, like
Yeah.
it feels authentic, you know,
True.
and they're
Yeah.
gonna either give it to you for free, and you're like, sweet, that's out of the budget line.
It's a good point. I have not tried that. I will try. I should try begging on Instagram. Like golden.
How long does a painting take you? I think a lot of people will wonder this.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if I should admit
Oh,
to
you don't have to say it if you don't want
No,
to.
it's fine. It's okay. It's so painting, like any skill set, it's a skill,
Yeah, of course.
and you advance. So when I first started, something that's like this size, which is like 20, that's 30 by 40.
Oh, yeah,
Or like
wow.
a 24 by 48 inch would be 25 hours,
Yeah.
roughly.
So this is the thing, is I not that I can't stand non-artists, but there's people that go, oh, can you quickly draw me this picture? And I'm like, or like, hey, they'll ask, hey, can you illustrate me a children's book? And I've got this as a budget. I was like, that doesn't even like open the door, like for how long this will take. And then they're all offended. Oh, well, and I'm like, no. And even if I was like, hey, I cranked out this drawing, I got it done in an hour, but I'm still charging you like $500. I'm like, you're getting all that work that I put in by myself, all that time and hours, all that's what you're paying for to get to that illustration style that you're like hoping to get with me. It's
Right.
not the time that I put in, it's my
Right.
expertise going on.
Well, and that's such a good point because I was just going to say, like, so nowadays, my paintings take, like, this painting will take about, depends on where I'm at in my head, like
Yeah,
how I'm
yeah,
feeling about
yeah.
the painting process that day, but it's between 5 and 8 hours, I'd say.
Oh, wow.
So it's substantially quicker. However, what I've realized is, so one, I put a lot more effort into the planning process now. So that means, I'm thinking a lot more about my color palettes. I'm doing more sketches. I'm kind of working out the details that before I would just slap out on a canvas.
Yeah.
And the other thing is burnout. If you, I know how much I create on an average per year.
Yeah.
But I go through windows. I'm not, like, even though on Instagram it might look like I'm painting every week, 2 a week.
Yeah.
I'm not. What's happening is I'm going through like creative bursts
Yeah.
where I create a bunch and then I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go take a few weeks and like go to the ocean and look at it, or I'm gonna go to the mountains and look at it. And so there's a lot of like getting out and observing what I'm going to paint
Yeah.
that plays into actually sitting down and doing those paintings quicker now.
Yeah.
So I find that if I were to, I could probably double, like by numbers, I could probably double what I'm making per year if I made myself paint every week X amount of time. But I also think it would lose the authenticity because it would be a production-based model, and that's not what I'm here for. Like,
Yeah.
I'm here to create what I love to create and hoping that people resonate with it. I'm not producing just to produce. So
I could not agree with you more on that. Because there'll be time, like right now I'm going through, like, I'm in my sketchbook phase, like where I can't commit to doing a full illustration, but I'm like sketching it. And even then I'm like, I'm trying to like break that sort of creative block. There's a lot of stuff going on in Christmas and like my downtime's not as much, or I'm not getting that sort of like daydreamy time.
Yep.
And I'm like, so last night I drew like pigeons, like scaling down. I was like, but
Were you in Seattle? Was that Seattle driven? So we have pigeons everywhere.
Everywhere. Yeah, I'm just starting doing scenery with just pigeons. I don't know where it came from. I have a couple of characters that I'm playing with that sort of somehow I've got a feeling are going to be in the same world, but whether I do something with them, I just love drawing. I got this character, he's not up there anymore, but it's called Mr. Box Brain. It does this.
Nice.
It's basically a human head with I made a box 3 Boxing Days ago of a character.
Yep.
Of a face, and then I used that to be the character, and then now I'd use that in all different scenarios and stuff like that.
I love that.
And now I've got really into drawing this pigeon and rat like hanging out, and so then I was like, I'll start drawing that again. I'll like figure out what to do with it, and I was like, I can't figure out what to do with it, so I was like, I just redrew the pigeon smaller and smaller and smaller, and
nice.
I was like, okay, I guess that's it, but. I still, in a year, I might crank out like 100 to 200 different illustrations, like because of all like the little illustrations, big illustrations, all that sort of stuff. And everyone's like, "Oh, you must be drawing all the time." I'm like, "I am, but I'm not actively drawing that all the time." You know what I mean?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. And it's interesting because I tell people all the time, like people ask a lot, "How do you get going?" Like people who like art and want to do art but don't know how to really get started. And I always tell people, like, do what you just said, which is like sit down and do a little bit every day.
That's
because
what I say as well.
It shouldn't be like production driven. However, getting in the habit of it will make your brain, I think it makes your brain just kind of be like, oh, I missed that, or I want to do, like, if it's really something you enjoy doing.
Yeah, yeah.
Some people might not if they don't
Yeah.
really resonate with doing it.
I think it's
But
totally okay for people to enjoy art. And I will
Mhm.
say, I'll go on a tangent here for a second. If everybody just looked around them in their house right now or wherever they are, and every single thing that has been touched by some sort of creative person, that
Yes.
bookshelf you got from IKEA, that book cover, the floors, someone's figured out how thick, thin, the darkness of that wood, the seat you're sitting on, everything has been created as a design. Everything is a visual representation someone has done. Now they've got different constraints that have been put on themselves that they need it. Maybe it's budget, maybe it's materials, all that
Yeah.
stuff. But someone has designed it. We take creatives and artists for granted. Now, if you just want a traditional art piece and you're like, it's okay to just love to do it and want to do it. Like, I love music. I've owned 3 guitars. I can't play for shit, but I still love music. You know what I mean? Like, I
Yeah,
gave it a crack.
absolutely.
I'm just not going to be that guy.
You and I are the same there. Same. I've had like pianos and stuff, and I'm like, I suck at this, but I enjoy it.
Yeah. And but then I'm also like, I want to go and draw. I'd much rather go and draw or create or build something that
Yeah.
is like in some sort of tangible way. And music, just I've got my mate Mitch, just will sit down at night after work, not turn the TV on, and just play music. And he'll be like, I'm satisfied, and go to bed.
Yeah.
I would not be that dude, but I could sit there, draw while he's playing music, and I was like,
Absolutely.
I just had the best night of my life.
Yeah.
So,
It's a huge deal. What do you listen to when you draw? I'm curious.
oh, well, depends on what I'm drawing. So if it's a bigger piece,
Mm-hmm.
I try not to get music that goes up or down. So I'll get like a
Interesting.
lo-fi hip hop sort of going on. Like
Okay.
that channel that's on YouTube.
Yeah.
I will do if I'm illustrating a children's book, I'll pick something that I know that my brain sort of goes, oh, I'm entertained over here, and then my hands like, so it might be like the Harry Potter series or a book or a
Yeah.
podcast, and I'm just like, oh, they're just talking over here. My social battery over here is just entertained, and I'm like focused on the drawing.
Interesting. Okay.
But if I'm such a big hip hop person, but I also love like Crumburn. I love Jack Johnson still like floats through there. Like there's Powderfinger, some Australian bands, Tame Impala sometimes. Like I just like go through a range like blues music. I'll like hit up like
Absolutely.
I'm going through a Lana Del Rey stage at the moment.
I love Lana Del Rey.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, so good. And I'm like, so I'll just and I don't know if it's the way that my head work or artist head work, where you're like, oh, I've got an idea, I need to do that idea, or like in the music, oh, I want to listen to that artist, and I will like beat that artist up in my brain for like
Yeah.
2 weeks, and I'll be like, I don't want to listen to that anymore.
That's so funny. I do that. My husband was actually Maggie Rogers. I've been on like a Maggie Rogers kick.
Oh, okay, yeah.
My husband was like, why are you like, constant? I'm like, I don't know. It's just a phase right now.
Yeah, I feel I do the same thing. It'll be with anything. Like I'll get into, for some reason, like I'm not a car person, even though I brought up the subject. I was into like restoration car shows for like a solid 6 months. I would stay up late because my wife didn't want to watch them, and I'd watch them late before I'd go to work. And I'm like, okay, I got my fix. Oh, and then I would like. But it was just something that ticked in my head. I was like, okay, I want to see their creative process of building these like these cars and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
I just was really into it. And then all of a sudden, bang, can't stand watching it. Like,
So
can't-
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you feel like you need to dissect it? Like, is it something like you need to figure it out? Like, figure out something about it?
Oh, I don't think that. I think it's my brain just like trying to like absorb something that I.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't. Maybe now that you've put that in my brain, I'm now gonna have to try and dissect something. But like now, it's another thing I need to add to it. But
I asked because it's like a notorious joke in my friend group that I'm the why person. Like, why? Like, I never take anything at face value. I want to know
me
why.
neither. Yeah.
And
My
so, like,
wife hates that.
Yeah. Oh, my husband's like, stop. Like, it can just be. And I'm like, no.
No. Like, but I need to know why that person's thinking that
Yeah.
way in this situation now. But it
Why?
doesn't matter to you. But I'm like, it does. As a society, we need to understand.
Yeah, we have to figure out the psychology in order to make a new solution. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel this.
Yeah, so I've always felt like art people and musicians too is like very driven by curiosity and why. you know, and try and understand. And I think that's why I like science so much, because it's the same.
I love science. I'm not. So I would say I did not go down a scientific road at all. But I will sit there and again, like I'll listen to Neil deGrasse Tyson about his like star talk and stuff like that, and I'm like, or my daughter, she's very similar to me. She'll come in and be like, "What's a black hole?" And I'll be like, "Oh, look up black holes." And then we'll be there for like 3 hours, like black holes, black holes, black holes, and then we'll be like, "Oh, we got our fix." And then like I hear her talking about black holes to people over there,
Awesome.
and I'm like, it's very the curiosity of everything is what sort of still keeps me happy and drives me. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I hear you on all of that for sure.
So taking that with the curiosity of your artwork, how do you ever get to a spot where you're like, hey, I've done so many landscapes, what's a new place that I can do? Like, do you try and find a new one?
Yeah, I do. So you were asking like earlier on a little while back, like, do you go and get your reference photos?
Yeah.
So for a long while in the beginning, I worked off of photos that I'd already just previously taken. I never use Google or anything like that because copyright infringement, all that. And if I'm going to use someone's photo, I ask them, like, I'm saying, are you okay with me painting it? But yeah, so for me, I love Washington. Like Washington, as someone who grew up in a flat farm state, this place is like, it's crazy. Like it's the closest thing I have found to Switzerland or Iceland in the US, right? Like,
oh wow,
volcanoes.
I've never heard that comparison.
Like,
that's amazing.
I mean, Iceland we've been to Iceland. We've been to both. Like, we've been to Europe and Iceland, and they're the same thing. But anyway, we've been to all over Europe. And like the thing I love most in Europe ecology, when you get a place like Iceland, is just like how fantastically mythical it is. And I feel Washington has that. Like, you've got these crazy, foggy, mysterious oceanscapes, and then you've got the crazy volcano glacier combo, which is also a kind of a mind bend to think about.
The fact that you can drive across 520 and there's a day where you're like, there's no mountain here, and then the next day you drive and there's like, there's a massive mountain there. Where have you fucking been? You've been hiding. Peekaboo. Like, it's crazy.
It's totally nuts. And I find in each season, because the weather is like that, where winter looks totally different and then summer is like these crazy bluebird sunset days, I just find it to be endlessly fascinating and with endless ecology options. And so, you know, not only do I like exploring Washington across the whole state because of the variability, but also it's very helpful to just go out and take photos of what I want to paint. And so, you know, when I'm lacking inspiration, or if I'm trying to figure out what kind of collection I'm launch, I put my daughter in the car and we jet out in my very generic Pacific Northwest Subaru Outback.
At least that way, if like you like get super famous, they'll be like, "Oh, where is she?" And you're just in one of like these Outbacks, and they're like, "Oh, we don't know which one."
They're all Heidi. No. No. I mean,
before I forget, so your middle name, or it's like Heidi Farina?
Yes.
One of my best mates back in Australia, his last name is Farina.
Oh, interesting.
But he's been known as Froz for the longest time.
That's funny.
Since he was like in 3rd grade. So all of our friends just know him as Froz because someone nicknamed him Froz after the name Farina. I've never seen Farina anywhere else.
It's Italian and it means wheat.
Oh, does it?
So if you look on like pasta boxes from imports from Italy, Farina always means wheat on the box.
Oh.
But my husband's it's complicated. It's a complicated story. But my husband's actually adopted, but his adopted family is Farina.
Oh,
and
wow.
So, they are.
My son is adopted.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
Okay. Very cool. Yeah, we just found out a little while ago, but so it's.
Oh, okay. That's very fresh then.
It's very fresh, but so basically his dad is completely Italian, I believe.
Yeah.
And they are northern, and I think he's northern and southern Italian by ethnicity.
Okay.
And so Farina is like, I'm assuming at some point they had farmers in their family or something, right?
Yeah.
Not his name, but yeah.
That's awesome. You just don't don't hear that. Anyway, sorry. Back to what you're saying. Sidetrack as I always do.
Gosh, what was I gonna say?
So you get out to the car, you go.
Yes. So basically, I just take my kid. We get in a car, even if it's like a 3-hour drive, because you can take a ferry. We'll like take a ferry over to Olympic Peninsula, or I'll take her up to the mountains, or if my husband's got her, I'll go snowboarding. But either way, I'll just do it with the intent of getting photos.
Do you ever get commissions where people are like, hey, this is like the view from my house. Can you come and take do a painting here?
Yes. So I do about a commission a month usually.
Oh wow, that's a
Um,
lot.
yeah. So I launch collections that are like purely the stuff I want to create,
Yep.
but then people always resonate with a place that they have in mind the most,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so I know that that's a big part of how people resonate with art. And so I open up commissions twice a year and I offer spots. And if people want them, they get them. And yeah,
Wow.
so there's a lot of people who will send me like, here's the 5 views from my back porch. Can you paint it?
Mm-hmm.
And then I draw up sketches and see if what I'm making fits what they want.
Fits what they want. Yeah.
So
How do you choose your color palettes? Like, because with art, like, it's not like when you do digital art, I can like scribble my color palettes there and be like, hey, I'm going to sample that. I'm going to sample this. When you're creating a painting and you're like, hey, I don't know how much of this dark blue or this like purpley like red am I going to use, or this washy sort of brown green.
yeah.
How do you like? Are you like measuring out amounts so then you know how to replicate that, or is this just on eye?
Yeah, it's on eye. So I've been doing art in some capacity my entire life, minus that window where I just didn't.
Minus the 15 years you did it. But
Minus
whatever.
where I just stopped. But I was always creating. I used to like that period. I would like quilt and stuff. Like I
Oh,
did
yeah.
creative things.
Your brain just can't. You know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I feel
But
you.
it just wasn't painting. But regardless, it's the I can tell you if I think about it what I'm doing. Because when I teach art workshops, I will tell them like it's 50% titanium white, it's 50% this color.
Yeah.
And that's how I'm getting the muted color, right?
Yeah.
So I can break it down into that. But when I'm doing it for my own time, painting my own painting, I eyeball it.
Okay.
And then I tweak as I go. So what I typically do is I say, okay, this is kind of the view and the feel I want a painting to have. And I pick a color palette of like usually 5 to 8 colors.
Okay.
And then I take those 5 to 8 colors and I make every other color that
Other
I'm
color
going to
from them.
use.
Yeah.
So my paintings usually have like 20 to 30 colors in them, but they're
Yeah.
all made from the same base 5 to 8 colors.
Yeah. Wow.
And then it's just a numbers game of like how much am I mixing together of ratios to get each color I want.
Yeah.
But I don't measure it out. I never replicate it. Like I've done little swatches and I have those in sketchbooks where it's like
Yeah.
these colors make this general color, but I've never been like, this is the recipe and go back and follow it.
Yeah.
Because for me, it's not about replicating it. In fact, I don't really want to replicate it. Like I enjoy playing and learning something new each time I mix colors, and I'm not necessarily looking to make the same thing each time. And so I very, very rarely write it down unless somebody wants a replicate. You know, like they're like, oh, I love this one. Can you replicate it? And then I might play around and try to tweak it until I get a replicate.
Yeah. 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 Wow. Man, so I've just started doing paintings, and I'm doing this. If I remember, I'll pop them up here. But these series of tongues, and it's a mouth open, very cartoony, but it's like
Okay.
like 3 tongues coming out of one mouth, and like 2 tongues coming out, and like all like and I don't know why, but I've been drawing them for years, and I was like, finally, I'm going to paint them. So I've been painting them over the last couple of months. But there's been times where I've been like, oh, I really need that pink, and I can't eyeball it yet. Where I'm like, hey, so I'll make a batch of it,
Yeah.
and then I'll like seal that, and I'll be like, oh great, I didn't use all that batch of pink, and so it's like finding that balance of not wasting it, because like one, you don't want to spend all this money on paint, but also not that acrylic's crazy expensive, but well, maybe I get the like liquidate ones. I'm sure you get some sort of better one than
I get golden, but they're not. You get Liquitex. Is that what you use?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. I was like, they have good brands too. Golden's what I use because it's easy and everywhere. So yeah.
So, but it's just hard to sort of for me to eyeball and get that pink back, and I'll be like, oh, I'm gonna have to make this a highlight, or I put a bit of drool that's on that one because I don't highlight something. So.
Do you have a Star Wet palette? Have you heard about them?
No, what?
Yeah. So
I've been using paper plates and wooden spoons as my like mixer.
I mean, that is cost effective and works. So it does work. But I use a glass plate or a glass palette when I'm just like creating in my studio.
Yeah.
But I use a Star Wet palette to keep any paint left over. So you can it's basically a palette that's got a sponge and then special palette paper, and it's a big box and it closes airtight, and you soak it in water and then drain it, and then you put your acrylic on top of the palette paper, and it keeps for 3 weeks.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's kind of a cool. It's a cool alternative if you like. When Isla was really little,
Yeah.
I couldn't paint for 5 hours straight. There
Yeah,
was no
yeah,
way
yeah.
to do that, and so what I would do is I would use the Style wet palettes all the time then because I could like paint for 30 minutes, put it down, and know I could come back in 3 days and have the
Yeah.
same colors
I'll,
instead of letting them dry out.
I'll definitely have to look into that. So, we should. I just realized that we're an hour in, which
Oh man, okay.
that's totally fine. It's more for your time than it is for me because I'm just asking so many questions that I'm interested in. So what we'll do is we'll try and crank through the rest of these, but
Okay.
I'm sure we'll get on a tangent and have a bit of fun as well.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
Sounds good.
First of all, is there anything else you wanted to say about your art style or anything that I'm going to have links in the description to your art stuff? You've actually probably got more followers than anything than I do. I'm not bringing you anyone, but I'll have that stuff there. It's just enjoyable to have you on.
Cool, thank you.
And do that. Is there anything else you would like to say about your art that you might have missed or you might want to...
Oh gosh, no, just that like, if you ever have questions, if someone has questions and they find this podcast, let me know. I love talking about it.
Yeah.
I think, the big takeaway with my art is I'm trying to highlight the places that I have found to be really peaceful and important to me. And a huge part of why I paint what I do is because I majored in ecology. So had I not ended up on that science genetics ecology train,
Yeah.
I don't know if I would end up back painting. So it's kind of like this weird circular path.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I was thinking something to Emma. I was like, man, I don't know if the science stuff that you talk about and then like the places that you're talking about and the pictures that you've taken before, I was like, that is just... You couldn't have written that plan out, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it's been a total zigzag that I
Yeah.
didn't plan. But I honestly, looking back now at the past like 15 years, I'm like, this makes sense. Like, it makes
Yeah.
sense I'm doing what I'm doing and when and how. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I can even hear it in the way you talk about your paints and stuff like that as well, on how you break them down. It's interesting. Great take on it. Okay. I got a feeling we know this. Not this one. Which fictional character is your favorite?
Oh gosh, that's hard. That is a hard one. I hope this is not too generic, but I'm totally gonna go with Harry Potter.
Oh, duh.
Land, right? Like, I mean,
love Harry
in
Potter.
our age group, like,
Yeah. I feel like I've got a few years on you, I think. But
maybe I don't know. I'm older than.
My wife and I like watch the Harry Potter series every Christmas.
Yeah.
And so we're like, and now my daughter's really into Harry Potter. Like, she's listening to the audio books, and then she
love that.
watches that, and she's like, "Oh, this is a lot different in the book. I really like this more in the book." And I would always do that to my wife, and now when you see my wife just look at me going, "Oh my gosh, there's truly of you doing this to me." Yeah.
That's awesome. Do you like Lord of the Rings too?
I like the movies. I have not sat through I have not read those books though.
They're pretty intense.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're big. Like, I like Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones was
Yeah.
great. The first like
Yeah.
5 series, 5 seasons. I mean, crazy.
Yeah, gnarly. They're gnarly to watch. It's
Yeah. Then the last couple, you're like, oh god, okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, but definitely Harry Potter for just nostalgia's sake.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Really good. Especially the books, like, because the way they're like all the sub stories and everything like
Yes.
that in there. The way
Yes.
she was able to build this world where you just feel like you're sitting in it. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
No, it's amazing. And when I had Isla, I would feed her and I would just read her because supposed to like talk and read a lot. I would read
yeah.
the Harry Potter books to her. So my hope is that my kid is like your kid in a few years.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Into
Well,
it.
mine actually hated when I'd read to her these books.
Funny.
And then she, I think she would just hear us talk about them. And like, oh, it's coming up. We're going to watch these. And then she'd be like,
Yeah.
let me do this. And then she started listening to on audio books. And so now she carries her iPad around, headphones in, doing other stuff while she's listening. And I was like, oh my gosh, she's like, please just take all the good pieces of me and take all the better pieces of your mum and combine that into a superhuman. Because, like, I do not want a little me running around. I just want...
That is the hope, right? You
Yeah.
hope they get the best of both of you.
Exactly.
I don't know. I
Which
definitely
is-
see the neurotic stuff though. I'm like, oh, that's for me, and that's my weird thing. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I think that as well. So I've got one Harry Potter question
Okay.
for you. Should Hermione have ended up with Ron?
Oh man. Didn't they at the
Yeah,
end?
but should they?
I feel like they should. Yeah, I'm gonna go with yes.
Oh, that's where we differ. Oh.
You think so? You think Harry Potter?
Oh no, I think Hermione's like honestly, It should have just been called Hermione and these other two people that have problems. Going on. Because she sorts everything out. She's the one she's the one stable thing that makes it happen.
That's true. That's a good point. I guess I'm biased because we got married so young. I'm like, it's fun to have a partner.
Oh yeah, I got married. Well, I was at 23 when I got married, but
oh yeah, you were young too. Yeah.
I was pretty young. I was 25, but I got together with my wife when she was 20. I was 23.
Okay, yeah. Same. Yeah, but I hear what you're saying. Yeah, no, it is kind of like she's got the whole
She's
thing
everything.
down.
She's amazing.
Yeah.
And he doesn't bring anything. Like he's kind of like a whatever. Like I'm making it. Like there's nothing to him. There's no.
I've never thought about that. I need to rewatch the movies and read the books in that context. And be like, you're useless, Ron. No.
Yeah. Oh, if you ever get a chance, if that does happen, there's this funny podcast where they go through each of the chapters of the book, but they're fucking hilarious. I can't remember. It's off I think it's off not Barstool. It's one of the other massive podcasts, but I can't remember what the podcast. If I remember it, I'll shoot it to you.
Yeah, please do.
Insta. But they basically, these two hilarious people go through the chapters, but they talk about stuff like, why would McGonagall give Harry Potter a broom? And then they talk about how she's got like a gambling junkie. And she's like, oh my gosh, I've got someone that's really good. I've got to up it so I can win these bets. But they got all these like funny takes and but they love Harry Potter so much. So it's not like they're ripping it. They're like saying all the things like when they talk about whipping your wands out. Don't whip your wands out every time you can. And they're like, oh, I'd be whipping my wand out all the time.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and it's so it's very adult. Like I can't let my daughter listen to this, but you were just like, oh my gosh, this is so funny.
Yeah, no, I should totally listen to that because we actually, when we got married, the last book came out the day after we got married.
Oh,
so
wow.
We were in the airport flying to Alaska, and the book was sold out everywhere except for the airport. And so my husband and I plowed through the book on the flight. So he read it on the way to Alaska, and I read it on the way home.
Oh wow! Do you know what's funny? So that was I know this. That was July 11th, 2007.
Yep.
So I had just moved to America July 10th, I think, or July 11th. So the book, my mother-in-law picked the book up and I had it. So I just read that last book intensely the first time I moved here. It was crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, we got married July 2007. So yeah.
Wow. Crazy. Oh, maybe that was that? Yeah. Anyway, yeah. That wild. What do you do for fun?
Oh, so I'm a hobby addict. I have so many things I like to, it's ridiculous. But my favorite thing ever at this moment, at this gym.
I love that, at this moment, yeah. I feel you on that.
I wasn't a competitive per se. I was a figure skater all through my childhood. Not really competitive. I did a few competitions, but it was more my parents put me in it and I did it all the time.
Yeah.
As an adult, my husband and I learned to play ice hockey. So I took up ice hockey when I was 30. And now I play 3 times a week. My husband plays 10 times a week.
Ice hockey?
We have addiction issues. This is a problem.
I don't know how you have time for everything. That's what I don't understand.
Well, so hockey is as an adult, you play hockey between 9 and midnight usually.
Oh.
So most people's hobbies are during normal hours when work and their kid is happening. Our hobby is after everything's done for the day. Yeah. So the major issue is we just don't sleep. That's
yeah. I see that.
But no, so we play. That's my favorite thing. It's so fun, and everyone always talks about the Seattle freeze and not making friends here, and we have just not had that experience. And I think it's because we joined hockey pretty early, and we have met so many people, and so our best friends are from hockey, and it's turned into this not only very fun activity and healthy sport, but also a friend base here from a transplant perspective, because I'd always heard people who grew up here kind of isolate out from the people who move in, and we just didn't have that happen. I think it's because we joined that community. So yeah.
I feel I definitely know the Seattle freeze from being here. Also being Australian, it's not I don't get it as much, but also then I'm very particular in who I will hang out with. So pickleball, I love. I get my social battery filled up. I'll go play pickup games, and I know nearly everybody around. But I know bits and pieces about them. I'll be like, oh, how's this, how's that, and I get like, I love that feeling.
Yeah.
But I'm also the person that like, hey, we're gonna have a party tonight, and I'm like, that's cool. I'm hanging out with my family.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. So I fully get that. So I might be a part of the problem, to be honest.
No, it's okay because I'm a mix of that too.
Yeah.
It's just I think we've made such good friends in hockey that now we've got like a small close. Like we had a Christmas party last night, and it was all people we're very close with from hockey.
Oh wow, cool.
You know, but we don't hang out with everybody we meet in
Yeah,
hockey.
yeah.
Like the ones we are really connected.
What position do you play?
I play defense.
Defense?
Yeah, my husband plays defense too.
I bet you if we put the question right at the front of this, what sport do you think Heidi plays? There is no way, being an artist, that they're going to be like at the minute 12 mark, and they go hockey.
Hockey. Ice hockey.
Yeah, they're not in that.
Ice hockey.
Yeah, and we're addicted to it, and we do this like multiple times a week. There is no way.
Yeah, we're pretty odd humans. Like my husband
that's
and I
the
have
best
really
type
eclectic
of humans to be.
taste.
Like I always joke with my wife, like, this is not judging anyone around here. It's just so different for me. Is that every guy around here wears, and sorry if this is your husband, but
No, it's okay.
wears jeans, runners, a shirt, and then a puffy Patagonia vest.
Not my husband.
Yeah,
He refuses to wear that outfit.
Oh yeah, and I said to my wife, I was like, if you ever see me wear that, I've given up so deep down that you should just take me out like old Yeller and just be like, you're here now. Just die.
Seattle's like it's like the town where everyone looks like they're gonna go hiking. You know?
Yeah.
Doesn't mean they do hike.
No.
Like
It's all on their profiles. What do you love to do? Like when I ask this question, they'll be like, oh, I love to go hiking. And then I go, when's the last time you went hiking? It was like 3 months ago.
Yeah.
I'm like, you don't love to go hiking.
So funny.
Yeah.
So true.
What do you say to yourself to lift yourself up?
Oh man. This is a bad question. I'm like notorious for self-hate.
Oh. Me too.
It's not a bad question. You didn't ask a bad question.
No. But I feel the same way.
I don't have good answers. I think I don't have a lot of like great self-talk. But I will say that like I think I've come to a place in life where I'm very confident in who I am.
Oh, I love that.
Like I do not care what people think of me. I love the life I've built.
Yeah.
And if you asked me to change it, I wouldn't.
Yep.
And so I think there's like a knowledge there that I am deeply happy with, even though not everything in my life and every choice I've made has been a good one, because that is just life.
Who has made, if anyone has made perfect choices ever, I'm like, we're not friends because you haven't had to deal with anything. Not that I feel like anyone's done that, but I'm with you. Yes, yeah.
No, so I'm kind of in that boat where like I feel like I've hit a peaceful point in my life where I know that I feel good about where I've landed and the work it's taken to get where I've landed.
Yeah.
And so, it's not, I wouldn't say I like necessarily have like a pick-me-up phrase or anything like that, but I do, if I'm having like a rough day or a rough week or a rough period in life, I kind of routinely go back to like, I've had plenty of rough moments in life and they've all led me to a place that's been overwhelmingly positive. So logically, I know that I will get back to a overwhelmingly positive situation again if I keep trekking along. But I tend to be a little bit like I can also go real hard on myself sometimes.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I go way too hard on the pain on myself. But I will say, I wish I had like hate it, like someone that was just like out there like hating on me, so I could be like, yeah, hate it, so I can like, I'm against that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
So then it's not me going like, yeah, hate it, yeah, you gotta live it, you gotta do this, you gotta power through. Yeah, like when I'm like working out and I've just been like going to the personal trainer, as I said. And, like, if he's like, all right, this is the last set, let's get it, let's go. And I'll be like, come on, you piece of shit, cunt motherfucker, let's go. Yeah. And I'm, like, talking to myself, like,
Well, are you competitive?
Some people might say so.
Yeah, I was like, I feel like I'm fairly competitive.
Yeah,
like, not to a toxic level, but I do compete with myself a lot. Like, that's why I liked individual sports, I think, because it makes you compete with yourself. And so, I tend to be like that. Like, when I'm running on the treadmill or something, like, you can do this, you can beat this.
You don't swear like a drunken sailor at stub their toe.
Oh
do
no,
you?
I do. Yeah. In our relationship, my husband, hey, I am the pirate, and he hates it. Like, not. And he's like, "Oh my God, stop! You sound like awful." You know?
Yeah. I growing up in Australia, like everybody swears, and so you don't even hear it sometimes. And so
Yeah,
I'll
that's
be in
what
the
I
car.
am.
I was literally we're driving down to Great Wolf Lodge on Thursday or something like that.
Nice.
I said a swear word, but I had like my kids in the car, my nephew, and my niece, who's the youngest one. She's only like 8 or something like that. And I said a swear word, and everyone was like, "Oh, I can't believe you said that." And I was like, "What did I say?" I couldn't even like pick what I said. And I was like, okay, sorry, Lucy, my bad. I'm Australian, I'm Australian. That's always my like get out of free
No,
joke.
I hear you because I dropped the F-bomb nonstop. And my sister actually, we were on the phone one day and my kid was up and I dropped it. And here's the thing. I'm 37. I'm going to be 37 in a month. It's not going to change. Like,
No.
this is not going to change. This is who I am.
Yeah.
If you don't like it, it's fine. You don't have to like me.
Yeah.
And like, I dropped it and my sister was like, I guess that's staying while you have kids. And I was like, here's the deal. She's just going to have to learn that she can't say it in certain places.
I
Like-
say this as well. Oh, if my kid, I'm like, I don't let my kids drive.
Yeah.
Like, my kids aren't allowed to drink. They're allowed not to say these words.
Yeah.
And, like, I don't swear at them and go, you
Yeah.
effing little whatever.
Same.
I'm like, I drop a pencil. I'm like, fuck.
Yeah, it's a form of expression.
Yeah.
It's artistic expression in your language.
Yeah. I will say, I have a little game with my daughter that we've been doing for about a year now, and she's 9, and so we flip each other off. And so it started because she's like, I think someone at school like flipped her off, and I was like, well, what does that like look like? And then she did it, and I was like, I cannot believe you just did that to me. So I played into it, and then like, so from then on, it'll be like secretly, like I'll be like, and then she'll be like, and I'll be like, it's always like to pretend it's behind my wife, and so like, my wife knows, she's like, what's happening, what's going on. And so it's like that playfulness of like doing that. So
Yeah.
I do it with all my like nephews and stuff like that. It's really fun.
So funny. Yeah, I just think people take that stuff too seriously.
Yeah.
Like it's
Especially
a word.
in America.
Yeah, it's a word. Like let it go.
I'm with you. All right. What is a kind act someone has done with you that sticks with you?
Gosh, there's been a lot. I'm very lucky. I have a lot of very kind humans in my life.
Yeah, I feel you on that.
So we live here. This
Yep.
is kind of heavy. Is heavy okay?
Heavy is fantastic. You
Okay.
do you. This is all like, yeah.
I'm like, this is the most recent one
Yeah,
that
yeah.
was big in my life, and that's why it's coming. There's been like thousands of examples,
Yep.
but the most recent one was that my husband and I were trying for a second kid,
Yep.
and we had a miscarriage.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
It's okay. It was a while ago, so I'm good. But it was definitely a difficult situation because what was going on is my mom passed of a hemorrhagic stroke
Oh,
very long time ago.
okay.
But she had that from post-eclampsia.
Oh, okay.
So basically, like years after she had me, she had really high blood pressure that eventually ended in a stroke because of pregnancy. And so I was pregnant at the same age my mom was when she got it with me. And I was getting blood pressure spikes. And I went to the emergency room. And my husband was basically out of town on a work trip, and it was 2 a.m. and I have a 3-year-old in bed, and I had no one, like we have no family here.
Yeah, yeah.
So I texted a friend who was also pregnant because she was the only person in the whole world that knew I was pregnant other than my husband because she was pregnant and we were friends.
Yeah.
And I was like, I know you're pregnant. I'm so sorry. I was like, but also Charles is out of town and I just need someone to come get Isla and take her back home while I'm in the hospital figuring out whatever is going on. And she picked up at 2 a.m, her like deeply pregnant self, and drove to the hospital and got my daughter and took her home and tucked her in and stayed with her, and then came and got me later that morning in a house she doesn't know, like miles from her house, pregnant, and I was just like, oh my God, you're the best human ever,
That just
so-
makes you think that we will all survive what's going on, hopefully, at some point. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it was one of those things where when you live, I think you'll probably resonate with this, when you live far away from family, which we do, we don't have any family anywhere near here. It becomes like you're almost feeling like an imposition on humans sometimes
Oh,
because
I feel
they're
that all
not
the
your
time.
family, and I'm like, I need help, but also I don't know anyone here, like my siblings or my dad or my, it's just different than reaching out to family. And so to have like friends that are like that, is like a huge blessing. In
Yeah,
my
yeah.
opinion. So.
I was lucky enough that my wife's family, she has 3 siblings, and they all have 2 kids each, and they're all within like 10, 15 miles of like
Oh
where we live,
wow.
and they
Okay.
all get along really well, and
Oh,
like
that's
so it's really
awesome.
enjoyable. So there is times that I can reach out, but even still, there's like a line where I will be like, well, I'm not going to reach out and ask for that, or I'm not going to reach out for an
Right.
ear to land on because that's not their problem. But
Right.
mind you, I also still do that to my mates back in Australia, and I've got mates that like, why are you going through this on your own? Reach out to us.
Yeah.
Like, but I'm like, nah, it's like I'll just push it down with the rest of the stuff, you know.
Yeah.
But
It's easy to do that. And I think it's
yeah,
easy to feel like an imposition on people for
yeah,
sure. That's
that's
cool. Is your
amazing.
wife
Was this
from
an
Washington?
ice hockey like friend?
Sorry. It is actually. Yeah.
Classic ice hockey, bringing it back. I love it.
It is. Yeah. I met her through a
Is she also on the ice as well, or is she?
No, she plays. Yeah, she actually was on my husband's team, and then my husband was like, "You two would really like each other. You should hang out." And so we
Oh,
got to
that's
know each
awesome.
other, and now like her and I are good friends, and
Yeah,
it's just funny because it all happened through my husband and ice hockey, and
yeah,
otherwise I wouldn't have known her.
yeah.
So
That's amazing. That's incredible. Um, who is someone you would alive that you would like to meet?
um, I think I'm gonna go with Chihuly.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so it's actually funny when you were making the comment about the Subaru, like if you get famous.
Yeah.
So I had a moment, this was years ago when I wasn't painting yet, where he walked into Giddy Up Burger in Fremont,
Okay.
and I was eating lunch, and I knew who he was, and I was like, "Oh my God, it's Julie!"
Oh yeah.
And I had this fangirl moment, and I didn't go up to him because I was like, "That's weird," and also like I'm not gonna go up to some human and be like, "Hey, I love your art." But I
I
just
bet you
think
he would have loved it.
Probably. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know him, Like, I just
Yeah.
don't. I feel like that's like a very. Anyways, I didn't do it. So
Yeah.
I'd love to actually get to know him because I think one of my biggest influences is Gaudi from Barcelona in Spain,
Yeah.
and he's clearly not alive anymore. But I really resonate with stained glass work.
Oh,
I've
interesting.
done stained. So I grew up Catholic, so I went to Catholic church every year.
Yeah.
I'm not anymore, but I was and grew up and never missed church as a kid
Yeah.
until I was like 20. And then the stained glass windows were always something I used to stare at in church,
Oh
like
yeah.
instead of listening to whatever
But
they're saying.
the
I
whole
was like,
process about those things is so crazy.
yeah, it's nuts. So in
It's
high
nuts.
school, I learned to do it. I made stained
Oh,
glass and I know how to do it. And I actually think it's like an amazing process. And then we went to Spain. We go to Spain every year for a month because my husband teaches a course there.
oh
And
wow.
Sagrada Familia is the first church I've gone back into in my adult life and been like, oh my God, this is amazing. Because
Yeah.
it's completely centered on nature. It's
Yeah.
not actually very like Christianity focused. It's actually very nature focused.
Mm.
And the windows are not pictures of traditional Christianity stories. It's actually just beautiful artwork. But the amount of light that floods in, it's like, I swear it is actually like a religious experience to be in that building on a sunny day.
Oh wow.
And I just think his work is amazing. And I've realized that like Chihuly's work gives me similar feels. Like it's a very like a wash in color,
Yeah.
overwhelmingly beautiful, also see-through. Like there's just this very, very beautiful thing to well done stained glass. And so Chihuly's like the guy I haven't met in Seattle who I think has amazing, beautiful work, and I would love to just get to know. So
That would be an amazing collab. Like with you
yeah,
doing like a scene and then he's got something that like sort of hangs or does something within it. Yeah.
that would be cool.
That
And
would
the
be
ones I've realized that's how I paint. I paint in layers of transparent paint.
Yeah.
So even though it's acrylic, I use medium to make it transparent, and that's
What
how a lot of
medium
my
do you
colors
use
are
to make it
built.
transparent?
There's a bunch of different GACs. So if you
Okay.
go into Golden and you look up GACs, I use 100, 200, and glazing medium.
Okay.
And I actually learned that from another artist out of Canada, David Longvie.
Okay.
And he introduced me to those mediums, and I was like, whoa, this is a game changer. This is like watercolor.
Yeah.
And so what I do is when I make my colors, I mix them to be the colors I want. But then the reason I get depth in my water is I'm actually overlaying layers and layers of translucent paints.
Yeah. I think I want that for like the shininess of the tongue. That's why I'm asking.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And so, yeah, I use that medium, but that's where I often think about how when I'm painting, the process is so similar to how stained glass works in some ways. Like, you know, when you get shadows of the light coming through stained glass,
Yep.
it's basically like watercolor or stained glass, where you're layering color and you're letting those colors interplay and the translucency of it. And I think that's like some of the key concepts I like to
Yeah.
work on and look at in my own work.
It's funny you say that, because like looking at the piece back there and the stuff you're talking about, I'm like, oh my, I can fully, even though it's from afar, it's over a webcam, and I've seen your work in person, but I can fully see all the stuff you're talking about.
Yeah.
Like, in my brain, it makes sense. I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Of course, yeah. Wild.
Yeah, I guess Catholicism did have an impact on me.
The right impact, I guess.
Yeah. It's just funny looking back. I'm like, it was a big influence. I think I didn't realize it, but I mean,
Yeah.
every Sunday of my life was staring up at stained glass windows in the
Yeah.
church. That is the part I remember the most about going to church. So
It's wild. Yeah,
Yeah.
I was christened Catholic, but
Mm-hmm.
I didn't do anything. Like, my mom, we're not really religious.
Yeah.
I'm not religious at all.
yeah, we aren't either. But my family was pretty deeply Catholic, so it's for them. Yeah, but for me, I got an art lesson out of it. So.
Yeah. That's why you're so good. Yeah, see, I like it. So I'm just gonna go sit in churches and then see if I can
Yeah.
get better.
Yeah.
I like it. When's the last time you rode a bike?
Oh gosh, last summer I have a mountain bike. I like to mountain bike.
Of course you do. Of
Yeah,
course you do.
I don't do it a lot. I'm not like one of those people who like is like I'm a hardcore mountain biker,
yeah.
but I enjoy it. It scares me. It actually, of all the sports, it scares me most. But
Well, yeah, because it's. Do you go up to like Doothie Hill or anything like that?
Doothie, yeah, I
Yeah.
go to Doothie, and I like I'm one of those people where like I want to just let go and be like pound it and go and
Yeah.
fly. But deep down, I'm like, but this is not snow. That is
Yeah.
a tree.
I see those people. I've been up to Doothie. I've never ridden there. I'm not a mountain bike rider. I'd be much better at BMX riding because I did
Yeah.
that more as a kid.
Okay.
But when I see those people like bombing off these things, and I'm like, man, those trees are so close, and like the angle you're coming down on, like that wheel buckles. I'm like, I do not want to. I know two people that have broken their necks doing this, and it's like they're both happy to walk. They just broke the vertebrae. They didn't break the column, the spinal column.
That's good.
Yeah, and I'm like, if I know two people have done that, and I don't know that many mountain bikers, like obviously around here, you probably think you know more than what you think, but like the odds are not in my favor, and I'm like, I'll leave that to someone else.
Yeah, I go for like the very low grade ones, and I break a lot, but it's very fun. And
Yeah.
I like in a different world, at a different age, I think I might have been really into it because I'm
Yeah.
definitely an adrenaline junkie. But
Yeah.
it's definitely like I'm just at a point in life where I'm like, I'm okay with it being mellow mountain biking. But I have a friend in Bellingham who she kills it, and she like has videos of her flying. And I'm like, it looks fun. Like that part looks fun.
Yeah, like if you go to Whistler in summer, like I've been up there for my sister-in-law's triathlon, and the people that are like, there's hundreds and hundreds of people that are mountain biking up these like massive terrains up there, and then the big jump at the end, backflip, 360.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And I'm like, there's not that many people that can mountain bike this well, is there?
Yeah.
And there's just tons of them.
Do you know
I'm
what
like,
Stevens
that looks
Pass?
amazing, huh?
Stevens Pass does it too. My
Oh,
husband
do
and I have done it at Stevens Pass, so they'll take your bike and you go up the lift and then you ride down.
Yeah.
We avoid the crazy jumps. Like we're
Yeah.
just doing the mountain biking with the ramps and
Yeah.
no jumps.
Yeah, no jumps. Yeah, that's a whole. The Red Bull people that do like down like the canyons and stuff.
Yep.
Fuck that.
It's cool.
It
I
looks
love
cool,
watching
though.
it. Yeah, I love watching it. And I'm sure people watch us play hockey and they're like, what are you doing? Because you get hit and you get pucks to the leg and
Yeah. I'm sure that they're like, hey, there's a 37-year-old woman out there that's an
Yeah.
artist, and they're like, oh yeah, she's gonna be good, and then you're like smashing someone in the wall, spitting on their face, kicking them down.
I mean, not that aggressive. But yeah, my nickname in hockey is Honey Badger.
Ah. Oh, I see.
Yeah.
All right. Not
But,
that
yeah.
aggressive.
Yeah, not that aggressive.
Yeah, honey badgers are nothing to fuck with.
So funny.
All right, we got the last two questions going, and then I'll let you get out of your hair and you can go and do some crazy stunt that you're
Got
going to do.
no craziness today. It's all my laundry.
What three things are you grateful for?
Oh gosh.
My wife and I do this every night. So like I say three things and she says three things, and then we go to sleep. So,
Yeah.
but it can be small, like the tiniest thing, like, hey, I'm so stoked that my computer worked today for this meeting, or hey, I'm so stoked the universe hasn't collapsed, or like everything in between. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, they're all going to be pretty big, I think. So one is meeting and fostering the relationship that I have with my husband and my daughter. Like that whole situation in my life is a huge part of my life, right? Like I've been with my husband longer than I've been with my own family. So that the fact that I'm able to have him in my life and my daughter is obviously like I'm very grateful.
On a side question on that, you guys have been together since you were so young. That mean you had to grow together, like parallel. Obviously, I don't want a full rundown, but how do you grow together? Like, I was such a fucking dick when I was like 15, 16, 17, 20, and like then when I was like, I got married at 25 or something like that, and then until I was 30, and then like I'm still surprised my wife's with me now. Like I'm such a I'm gonna make up this idea. I'm gonna make a box art thing like this, and she's like, oh fuck, okay, cool. Like, you know what I mean? How do you grow together at that young and keep it together?
So everything you said is on point, right? Like there is no way to go from 15 to 37 without massive everything. So I like when people like this is just when people tell me that like, they don't fight or they've never had a perfect marriage or whatever, I'm just like so
I'm like, what are you suppressing down so hard? Like, or what are you doing, or what do they do that you get to like? Yeah.
No, we've had incredibly rough patches.
So me and my wife have.
And like I'll be real honest, I'm an open book about this. We've been divorced and remarried.
Oh wow.
Which is kind of unique.
Yeah, it is really unique.
We had a really rough patch. We got divorced in Wyoming, and there's no wait time in Wyoming. And they actually sign the paperwork like the day it comes across their desk, and which is abnormal for the US. It usually takes months. And so we actually got divorced, and then we made up and we're like, we're going to make this work. And then we got the paperwork in the mail the same day that we decided that. So it's actually kind of a comical, funny story now.
So crazy.
So at some point in the future, we'll have to be like, hey, Isla, there's 2 marriage certificates in the lockbox.
That's so funny.
But no, so the truth is, there is no way to go from 15 to 37 without massive growing pains. And what I've realized, and this is why I'm so grateful to have my marriage to him and my daughter, is to get past that. Like anyone who's in a long-term relationship, any kind of long-term relationship, to get past that and do that work leads you to a point, in my opinion, that is so incredibly powerful. Right? Because like we know all each other's dirty laundry. Like we know what our problems are. We know what makes each other tick. You know, we don't even necessarily have to communicate about it anymore because we're so aware of it all. And it also gives you a level of compassion, like to be like, you know what? Like everybody makes mistakes. Everybody messes up. Everybody does awful things at some point in life. But it's what you do afterwards that matters. And so it's, you know, that's the truth. Like it just, when someone tells me they have like a very perfect, easy relationship, I always have a little bit of a question mark in my mind just because I'm like,
what are you faking? You're faking it. Like, okay, good, yeah. I'm very skeptical with that stuff, with everything.
Yes, I guess I am too. But no, we're really big on like forgiveness, and we're very big on just laying it out there. Like it can be awful. Like he could tell me awful things, but I want to know them. Like if they're hidden, then we can't fix it. But if I know them, then we can fix it.
So. Me and my wife are very honest, and I think the big thing is that when it comes down to it, we both want the best for each other.
Yes.
And so if we're having a growth period where my wife is struggling with me and she's like, I'm needing this from you, if I'm not willing to listen to that, then I'm not wanting what's best for her. Now, we might have an argument in there to try and get to that point.
Absolutely.
But at the end of it, I might be like, you know what? You have been doing everything around the house, and I have been all in this art mode, and I need to get over here and to help this stuff out. Or I've been too obsessed with pickleball and trying to get out every second I can. And then she might be like, oh, you know what? I have been too hard on you, and you have been doing all this stuff with the kids, or that, or this. And so it's that communication and wanting the best for each other, even though it doesn't look like that best is right for you or whatever. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, and that's the thing. Like what I said earlier in the interview, like if I was alone, I
Yeah.
would be like some savage Alaskan hermit. Like it's ridiculous. Like I love being alone in the wild. Like
Yeah.
it's ridiculous. And also it's not my life. And it's partly not my life because we've chosen marriage and we live in a place
Yeah.
that's a compromise, right? But that's okay. Like and I think the compromise and wanting what's best, and also another thing is you mentioned earlier, like you play a lot, like with the flicking off with your daughter and all that.
Yeah.
And that's also, I think, a huge part of it is like if you can't get past the hard stuff and play, like
Oh.
I just play as a state, I think is so
Yeah.
important to
Oh.
relationships staying
I don't know
sound.
how, like, if people don't have, like, playful fun with each other, I'm like,
Yeah.
what's going on? Like, what
Yeah.
do you do for your life? Like,
My
I don't
husband's like a
understand.
serial pranker, and I sometimes want to murder him over it. But also, it's very funny. It's
Yeah. I'm very, like, I, like, play, like, so my wife would be like, okay, I need you to wind that back. Like, we're having fun, but I don't, like, I need some, like, I need you to come cuddle me. So,
Yeah.
like, and I'll be like, okay, I get it. I've
I
gone
get
too
it, I
far.
get it.
I've gone too far. Yeah.
That's so funny. Yeah.
All right, 2 more gratefuls.
Okay. Oh yeah, two more gratefuls. Okay, so oh god, I had this and then I lost them.
Yeah, sorry, my bad.
So coming back to art,
Yep.
like I feel like a part of my life, not my life, a part of my soul is back in a way it wasn't. Like the
Wow.
10 or
Yeah.
12 years where I wasn't creating art, I look back at that and I actually don't even really reconcile who I was in that moment because so much of my life was unaligned with what I agree with and what I like and
Yeah.
what just who I was. And so I think finding art again in my life has been a huge, huge, huge blessing that I'm grateful for. So that's a big one. And then I'd say honestly my health. You know, like I know that's kind of generic, but my mom died really early. She died at 54. We grew up in Ohio where people a lot of times have a lot of chronic diseases due to lifestyle and such. And like us moving to the West Coast and putting health forward and front and center. And I'm not saying that'll always be the case in my life, but just having that, I'm just very deeply aware that like it is a privilege to be able to get up and go play hockey 3 times a week. Like there's lots of people who have really rough mental health because they can't move their body as much as they want to or should or all those things. So I'm just like deeply grateful that that's an emphasis and that I have it.
Do you know what's funny? It's like, so I'm a little bit soft around the edges, and I would say 2 months ago, 2.5, I was even softer. So I thought that I was pretty athletic, and so like I'd play pickleball. I'm like really quick about getting around the courts. I can still go skateboarding. I could like go play football and stuff like that. And I was like, yeah, I'm at the topper part of like a 43-year-old, like being able to do all this stuff.
Yeah.
And then I started working out, and I was like, oh, I can touch my toes without going to touch my toes. Like I can like, instead of like, how can I pick that off the ground without having to bend down because my knees hurt? I'm like, well, I can just bend down and get that now. And even though I thought that I was pretty good, taking that little extra step and going like, hey, how can I... Well, it was actually my personal trainer that really helped me get to there, but he giving me the way that he has opened my eyes up to what a healthy body can be and the impact that makes has been really game-changing for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the thing I've learned in my late 30s is, I mean, not that I'm like deep in my late 30s yet, but I'm getting there, right?
Yeah.
And
It comes quicker than you think.
Yeah, I'm definitely staring down the clock. But it's for me, like as a female, like there's always pressure when you're younger, right? To look a certain way or whatever. And that's what drives a lot of decisions when you're younger, if you're wired that way. But as an adult in my late 30s, I'm like, this has nothing to do with how I look, right? This is everything to do with how I feel. Like, I want to wake up feeling great. I want to wake up and play hockey 3-4 times a week. I want to wake up and run with my kid at the park and that kind of thing. I think we lose sight of that in America quite a bit.
I think it's very westernized that you lose sight of that because we're so focused on work and usually what work pays for, like our stuff. But I feel like there is a change in the wind in Australia, and it might be different in other parts of the country where it's not as wet.
Yeah.
Where like being outdoors is like, oh yeah, we're outdoors, it's sunny, we can go do X, Y, and Z very easily. Where here, like now, like playing pickleball, I'm like, how can I get indoors? Who's going to play outside in the rain with me? Like that sort of thing. And I'm like, all right, like probably later today I'm going to go not that I want to. I was just coming up with this idea to put weights in a backpack and go do these like stairs that are like
Oh, yeah.
2 blocks away, just so I can be like, hey, I got to keep that fitness up.
Yep.
To do that. So, where in Australia and that places where you get that sort of like, I'm just able to go out and do stuff easier, and where I feel like here it's a little bit harder to get out.
It can, I hear that because we lived in California for a bit, and it's like you take for granted on those living there, like you're like, it's sunny every day. I'll stay in because it's sunny tomorrow for sure.
Yeah.
Whereas here, if the sun is out, I am not painting.
Yeah. I feel the same way. I'm like, let's say it was sunny out today and we had a meeting. I'd be like, in my brain, I'd be like, fuck.
Yeah.
Okay. Like, even though I'm enjoying this, I'd be like, when can we get out? When can I get out? Yeah.
The beauty of living here, though, is I've noticed that everyone feels that way. Like, so it's definitely like could we reschedule for another day? And everyone's like, yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's too sunny out. Yeah. I feel you on that. Last question. Actually, I have this last question, but I think I have a question after that, but we'll get to that.
Okay.
You have to wear a shirt with a slogan on it for a year. What does it say?
Oh, God. And don't mansplain hockey to me.
Oh. I was expecting some sort of art thing and stuff like that. No, that's great. That might be the best one yet. Oh, God. That is funny.
My favorite, we used to go to Kraken games last season a lot. My favorite would be like, we sat behind this couple. This is just a funny tangent story.
Yeah. No,
we sat behind this couple, and my husband and I both play. And we're not like geniuses about hockey, but like we know the rules and we follow them.
Yeah.
And the guy behind us was telling his girlfriend about hockey, who clearly neither of them knew about hockey.
Yeah.
And he was telling her all the wrong things. And I just was like, oh my God, 20-year-old me would have turned around and said something.
Yeah, it's hard to bite your tongue on that stuff.
Yeah.
Like,
it was funny. Really we were like, nope, that's not how offsides works.
So funny that the captain of the Kraken.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, so he lives where I play pickleball.
Oh,
I
no
literally look at his house, like his wife, Laura, walks by all the time. She's super lovely, and we just I'll be like, hey, because as I said, I know everybody. So anyone that even walks by, like the guy with the dog that walks by, like, hey, mate, how are you? How's the dog? Blah, blah.
Yeah.
I'm like, I chat to everyone. So even her, like her and her 2 kids and soon to be third. And I'm like, oh, hey, how are you? What's going on? Like, oh, we just moved here. So I hope you like the sound of pickleball because that's what happens to her a lot. And they're always out, like, playing with the kids and doing stuff.
Oh,
like
that's
that.
awesome.
Yeah. So
I think a lot of them live over in your neck of the woods.
Oh, do they?
There's a lot of Kraken players and, like, athletes in Seattle, I think, live over on the east side towards Kirkland, Bellevue area.
Oh, yeah. I've never had a football player live around here. I know we've had a couple of soccer players that live around here.
That makes sense.
And then I know they're thinking about making the Kraken training facility just up here.
They're talking about putting another one in,
Yeah.
so I'm pretty excited about
I think that's why he sort of moved over here.
Yeah.
I've never met him, but they all seem, like, his wife seems fantastic. I've met her, like, family and stuff like that. Yeah. They
Very
seem great.
cool. Very cool.
Last question. I had this idea while we were sort of chatting about this. Do you take, like, high-end photography of your work?
So, like me personally, or do I
and,
get
like, do prints?
So, yes.
Yeah.
I do print store. So I used to do print store releases. I think this year I'm just leaving them up full year round because I found that that's more useful. But yeah, I get my work photographed professionally.
Yep.
And then I convert it into what's called a giclée archival print.
Yeah. Giclée.
And so, people either order paper prints because they just want to like mat them and put them in a frame. Or they do stretched replicates. And those are like, I actually have reels on my Instagram. Like, they're so close that the only difference is the texture. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy what they can do with that now.
There's an artist called Anya Brock from Australia.
Okay.
And she really famous for, like, there's like zebra with like the rainbow behind the zebra and like giraffes.
It's Anya Brock.
Anya Brock. So Anya, and it's Brock, Brock.
Okay, have to look it up.
And so we've got one of her prints up in our house, and it was really interesting because I was like, I've seen her work and her process and stuff like that, and especially just mainly through Instagram, but seeing one of her pieces up close and seeing the stuff, it's incredible what they can do with the like
Yeah.
photography and the print. And
Yeah.
like she's very particular. I'm sure you are. Like, this is not quite right. Can we please adjust this lighting here and stuff?
Yeah, it's pretty nuts. I go through Soto. I go through the color group in Soto.
Oh, okay.
And what's cool, I used to not go through them. I used to go through like a large scale printer, and
Yeah.
I didn't like the quality for that reason because
Yeah.
I'm picky. And so I started going through the color group, and what they do is I have them take the photos with a special photographer.
Yeah.
They convert it into a proof, and then I get to go in and actually look and say like, yes, this is close enough.
Yeah.
But they do a great job. Like they handcraft, they make the stretcher bars, print the canvas, hand stretch it, all of that, which I know how to hand stretch canvas and I know how to do prints, and I hate it. Like it's not the wheelhouse. So I love that I can like source it to a small group of people in Seattle and also get like super high quality. So
That's amazing.
yeah.
So I don't know if you remember this, but I do an illustration based on our whole conversation.
Ew.
All right.
Yeah.
So if you're interested and you want to email me I would love to do whether it's on a big piece or whatever, but you can even just a little piece and I'll do the illustration. But it'd be fun to do an illustration into like my cartoon style into one of your
Oh heck yeah. That'd be
pictures.
super
So
fun.
if you want to send me any one you want, and then I'll like
a close up, like just the art.
yeah, just the art, like
Okay.
that way you can have it and be like, hey, do whatever you want with it, keep it in your email. I don't
Yeah, I love that.
But then I'll have that, and what I'll do is I'll have it separate. So then I'll have the separate bit of art, but I'll have it so it's like intertwined into your art.
Yeah, no, I love that. I'll put it up on my Instagram too. Let people
Yeah.
see it. That way we can
Yeah.
show people both sides.
Yeah, it'd be really cool, and I'll like figure it like it'll be based around your lifestyle and your story and stuff like
Sweet.
that. So yeah,
It's so
That's
cool. I love that you do that. So is this like, do you do this full time? I can't remember if you.
I try to
Okay.
so I have a part-time job where I teach art.
Okay,
My
great.
wife is the main breadwinner of the household.
Okay.
And she's just a legend all around with just that stuff. And so this is what, if I could do this full time, because as you can tell, we're an hour and 48 minutes in, and we could probably chat for about another hour on stuff.
Yeah, it's a lot of editing.
Yeah. Well, I probably wouldn't even, I'll probably just let this ride out because it's so interesting, to be honest.
Oh, cool. Okay,
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, you can edit. I'm
No,
totally.
no. Like,
Like she dropped the F bomb again. I'm sure I dropped it.
no,
there.
you can drop as many fucking F-bombs as you want. I'm all about it. Like, make this as authentic as you want. So I would love for this. I love creating art, and I'm the person that's always talking to people. If this was my like full-time world, I would not. There's nothing I could be happier with.
Yeah.
Like, and this would be my base platform, and then I'd be like, oh, you know what? I might do a series where I'm representing everybody as a tongue. Like, because that's my like world there.
Yeah.
Or I do a series where I get someone to do these 3D sculptures based on my drawings. Or like, there's so many ideas I have from here based around this, but I'm like, I've just got to keep grinding this out until I can grow. So
It's so cool though. I mean, I love the podcast thing. Like I follow a bunch of art podcasts.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
That's what I listen to when I drive places.
Yep.
And I don't know, they're really unique, and I love hearing artist stories. So I was so like honored when you asked if I want to do it. I was like, absolutely.
yeah. Well, as you see, there's a lot of people doing art around there, but I saw yours and I was like, oh, like there's people that have something, you know what I mean? And your art definitely has something. There's
Thank you.
movement in there. There's like the world that you sort of feel like it's a part of, you know? Like even looking back at that part there, I can imagine I'm standing on that beach, or I'm probably standing on that beach going like, why am I here? Because it's all windy and stuff like that. It's not a beautiful something like, but it's there. That world would be there for me, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I could see it.
No,
Like,
I
it's
appreciate
wonderful.
that. I mean, that's what I hope. Like I hope people feel connected to it. Right?
Yeah,
Like, that's it.
obviously they are when you've got so much stuff going on.
Yeah, it's been good. I'm never gonna complain about. Never gonna complain about it.
Do you? So one last question: do you have any goals for coming up? Since your podcast will probably land in January,
Yeah.
do you have any goals for 2025 or anything you
Yeah,
want to mention that
like
people
a-
could?
Huge planner. That's like my favorite thing ever. Yeah, so I had actually a bunch of solo shows last year,
Yep.
and I don't have any lined up this year, which is okay. That they come kind of as they go.
Yeah.
So I've been thinking about renting out a place to run my own and actually do like a giant party with my own work and run a solo show out of Ballard probably.
Oh, cool.
So that may be coming. But my major goal this year is to actually paint more large work. So I usually paint 2 per collection with a couple of minis.
Yep.
So it's like 6 to 10 pieces and 2 of them are large. I'm going for larger works. I'm also applying to more galleries. I'd like to be in more galleries farther out in the Pacific Northwest.
Yep.
And then aiming for a few solo shows. So those are the goals at the moment.
That's really cool. So how big are we thinking when you go in like bigger paintings?
Yeah, I mean, so I currently do a lot of 24 by 48.
Yeah, that's still pretty big.
There's pretty big, yeah, but I love painting huge. I actually did a mural in Sammamish, not far from
did you?
you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do murals. I actually, this is kind of funny. It's not funny, it sucked. I broke my AC joint. I like separated it in hockey.
Of course.
In my shoulder.
Yeah. The honey badger. You probably kept playing for the rest of the game,
It's actually really embarrassing. It was not like a fun story. I just like flipped into a hole in the ice and like flew into the boards. It was not even a good story.
It's always the worst. I tore my MCL on skateboarding, and I literally was just doing this little ollie to show someone, and it bounced off the ground, hit my foot, and I went that way and that way with my legs, and I was like,
and you're like, how? I wasn't even like there was legitimate moments in hockey where I should have gotten damaged, and this was like I fell into a rut in the eye, and I was like, you got to be kidding me. But anyway, so I cracked my AC joint open, and I was out of hockey for like 6 months, and at the same time I had to paint this mural in Sammamish, and I couldn't use one shoulder, but I also couldn't not do it because we only have sunlight and no rain for 3 months. So if I said I couldn't do it, then I was going to have to like nix that opportunity altogether. Yeah. And so I'm like on a 20-foot ladder painting a mural with one arm, like enlisting friends to come and hold the paint bucket for me with the other, because normally I'd be using by their shoulder. It was ridiculous.
Are you left-handed or right-handed?
I'm left-handed.
Oh, okay. Lucky enough. Oh
my
gosh.
I'm very lucky it hit I was actually thinking about that. I was like, if it would have been my left, I would have been out of work. I would not have been able to paint at all. So I'm fine. Everything's healed. But anyways, I like painting really big. I like painting murals like that. And so my goal would be to get a few gallery shows, because gallery shows a much bigger space.
Yeah.
And so like a 36 by 48 looks tiny on a gallery wall.
Yeah.
And so you could go up to like 48 by 48 or, and that's what I mean. Like I'd like to make more large scale works like that.
Yeah.
But the truth is that's a certain price point.
Yeah.
And I'm not, willing to compromise on my price point.
Yeah, of course.
So it's definitely like it takes finding the right humans to be able to afford that kind of art.
Yeah.
And so I have to be strategic with like when I produce that kind of art, because I'm not necessarily going to sell 30 of those right now without finding other places to advertise it.
Yeah. Which is, I think people always, when you hear an artist talk about, I have to be strategic about how I paint art, and they're kind of like, oh, art's meant to be all this. It's like, you could be the shittiest artist and the best marketer, and you will have a career. You could be the best artist and hate marketing, and you're going to have nothing.
Yep.
So I love the way you're like sort of, I love it personally, the way your brain's processing all that and going like, oh man, I want to do this big, but I've got to like time, money, people that are actually going to buy that at the end, their spaces in their homes. Yeah,
it's a balance. And I feel lucky that I'm from a background where I can figure out that balance, right? Because I do, like, I don't think I'd have a career without being able to marry those two things. And a lot of artists are either like, you create to create only, but I'm like, that's true, but I want to do it full time.
Yeah.
And to do it full time, I'm not independently wealthy. I need to make money, like, so there is like a marrying of what I love to do with reality.
Yeah. But it's so funny. It's like in so many other jobs, people will go and work like a shitty job and like, I hate my fucking job. And it's like, oh, so you're allowed to hate your job and go and work for like a corporation that you fucking hate. But I do something that I love, but I want to try and make money off doing that. But I can't sell out to say, hey, I'm going to do these like pieces because I know they sell, and then I'm going to do these ones as well. You know what I mean?
100%. And I mean, the real, like, what really would have been selling out to me is staying in my last job. Like, that's why I quit. Because I looked at my last job and I was like, this is not actually what I want to be doing. And it makes good money. Like, I'm making a good income, but also at what expense?
Yeah.
Like,
well, you've only got, I think about this in summers. You only have 80 summers average.
Right. Right.
for your life, right? And I'm like, shit, I've only got 40 more. Yeah, like that seems like a long time, but and how am I going to enjoy the rest of my life? And
Yeah.
how's my wife going to enjoy the rest of her life? I think about
Yes.
this for a lot of people. Like, do what you love. Yes, you have to make sacrifices. Like, I do things I don't want to do still, but I still am aiming to like enjoy this. I'm trying to like, I would still work a shitty job cleaning that to make the money meet on this end if I still got to do the art here. Like,
Yeah.
I've done a bunch of shitty jobs to do that. But anyway,
Yeah.
yes.
Well, and I post that I actually talk about that a lot on social media because, so you were asking further back in the conversation about how do people receive me quitting my last job.
Yeah.
And they did overwhelmingly receive it well. But what was interesting was I post on LinkedIn because I have a pretty big community there as well.
Oh,
and
cool.
so I post things. And so when I resigned, I put my art up and I put like a 5 or 6 paragraph writing. I like to write, so I write.
Yeah. I'm basically dyslexic. I'm an idiot. I don't know how to write. ChatGTP, here we go.
Hey, that's why it's there, you know? No, but I've always liked writing, and so I was like, you know what, I'm just going to put it out there, like, because not only is it all these people I've worked with over the years who don't know I do art, like, because I didn't talk about it in my science fair. I didn't sit and be like, I'm an artist, you know?
Yeah.
And so I put it out there, and I just was like, you know, it was basically writing about how I had looked at my career and I realized how much life I was going to miss with my daughter in that career, because in that career path I traveled a lot for work.
Yeah.
And I was like, and I also realized what I was modeling to my daughter. Like, I was modeling taking the job that made good money over taking the job that brought me like immense joy and fulfillment.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'd rather be broke. And
Well, it
like,
seems like you're doing pretty well. So.
I'm doing okay, but I would take a year of like less money than normal to do what I'm doing, and I think that's important. Like, that's what I realized. That's what my daughter did for me. Is she kind of woke me up. Like, it was a wake up call. Like, this is I get to model something to my kid. What am I going to model? Because what I'm doing right now is not what's bringing me joy. And it's kind of sad, actually, that it took like having a kid for me to like recognize my own self love.
Well,
you know,
sometimes what they do, right?
But yeah, it was. I mean, it's definitely because of her being a little baby and me thinking really hard about like parenting and what I want to model and how I want to model it. And that's when it was like, I can't do my whole life being beholden to a job that I don't love and then go to her and be like, yeah, go to college for the thing you love, or go pick the thing. Like, it's not a congruent message.
Yeah. Well,
so
we're also in probably, both of us seem like we're in a very lucky situation where we actually have that choice. And
absolutely.
That's the thing that I get grateful for a lot, is where I'm like, you know what? Like, I say this to I've actually been saying it to myself a lot more lately. My 15-year-old self would not complain about my life.
Yeah.
And so if I ever get down, I'm like, what would your 15-year-old self say? And I'd be like, oh, yeah. Because I was like, my life was not great back then. And so, like, it was still awesome, but also not great. But anyway, the whole mixture of that. But that makes me go sort of like, take a step back and go, it's okay. And I'm getting to enjoy this. You know what I mean?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And you bring up a great point. Like, had I not pivoted to science, had I not worked in science, had I not taken 10 years and like grinded hard in the job I had, I wouldn't be able to easily do what I did, which was say, you know what, I'm going to peace out and go try this exploration. And so, like, you're right. Like, there's a lot of people in the world who just can't afford at that juncture to do that. Right.
Yeah.
And I think it is a huge privilege that I get to do it.
Yeah.
But I also have now realized that, like, I will eat ramen every day to do this if I had to, because I don't think I can give it up.
One ramen's pretty fucking fantastic.
I mean, you know, but I mean like the cheap, like dollar.
Well, this is the worst. I'm gluten free now, so I have to have the rice ones.
Oh no!
And so it's like I'm like, it's still pretty good. Like it, but I've been so conditioned to how bad every gluten free thing is, so I'm like, oh, that's okay. Oh, this is good. And everyone else, is like, that's great.
Well, do you like Vietnamese food? Because I feel like they have a ton of rice noodles in their soup.
Oh, do they? I haven't eaten that much Vietnamese food, to be honest. I haven't got a very big palate on me. I'm a bit of a baby. So.
Yeah, I was like, I really like rice noodles in Vietnamese soup, but it's, like ramen. I mean, good ramen is great.
Yeah. Yeah, but the cheap ramen, it's still great. Like I lived on that in my 20s.
Cheap ramen's great. It just will kill you. You know?
Yeah. Anything that tastes like that good is going to kill you. So
Yeah.
that good and that cheap, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Heidi, thank you very much for coming on the podcast. And
Thanks for having me.
it was fantastic. You're fantastic. I love everything you got going on. Your paintings are incredible. Your whole outlook on life, you taking on hockey and just like kicking people's asses, being the honey badger, and just everything has been incredible. So,
Oh my goodness. Well, thank you for having me. Seriously, I appreciate it. I love it. And it's really fun to get to know you. I know we talked a bit in the market. But...
Yeah. I was like, oh shit, I don't want to take up too much of her time. I was like, oh.
No, it's great. I mean, it's interesting how those like small moments, right? You get to know somebody better. But I think same thing back at you. Like what you're doing is pretty incredible. So it's really
thank
cool.
you very much. Thank you.
Very cool.
And I like in a couple of weeks I'll have an illustration out to you, and like I'll hopefully you send me a link to your stuff, and I'll edit stuff onto that, and it'll be kind of a fun little collab, and that'll be really cool. And
I'll send you a few options. Just let me know which one you want, and then if you let me know when this is up, I'll repost it on Instagram.
Oh yeah, I'll send you links, and I'll send you you'll get so because we're doing a collab, you'll get one that's flat and that's your the size of whatever the print is, because it'll be digital art. So then you'll get that, and you can do whatever you want with that. Like I'm sure you'll be like, oh, this is fun. I'll put that in the bin.
No. I'll frame it. It'll go on the wall.
And then I'll have the illustration. I'll put that on a t-shirt or something like that. Like
cool.
That one section of mine, so then I'm not stealing your work, and I'll put that up there, and that way people can buy that through the podcast stuff and that like that. But yeah.
Very cool. That's awesome.
Yeah. So that'll be a fun little collab, and do that.